Chapter 3473. Rumble. The surrounding void trembled violently. The 9 dark half-immortal emperors were like 9 black suns, emitting endless black divine light. Dark mist rose in the surroundings, the void trembled, and cracks appeared in the void, devouring the lives of countless experts. The aftershock of the 9 dark half-immortal emperors had already killed hundreds of immortal kings. The people of the Great Yen Immortal Court and the Truth Immortal Court were in grave danger. After all, the Truth Immortal Court only had Ning Shukong, Bai Qingxue, Bai Qingshuang, and the young man with the ancient sword on his back. As for the Great Yen Immortal Court, they only had 2 half-immortal emperors, Yen Hongye and Zhou Yuan. The 6 half-immortal emperors had just broken through not long ago. Among the 9 dark half-immortal emperors, even the weakest one had reached the 5th heaven of the half-immortal emperor realm. The strongest one among them had even reached the 7th heaven of the half-immortal emperor realm. His strength was extremely powerful and brought them great pressure. Although Ning Shukong and Yen Hongye had various treasures and trump cards from the 2 immortal courts, they were soon at a disadvantage in the face of the 9 dark half-immortal emperors. Kacha! A dark thunderbolt exploded. The strongest dark half-immortal emperor was like a ferocious primordial demon, tens of thousands of feet tall. The unparalleled dark divine light instantly tore apart the defensive barrier in front of Ning Shukong, and then violently slammed into his body. Ning Shukong's body shook violently, and he was sent flying. His face was extremely pale and even a little ugly. "Your Highness, did the people of the Creation Immortal Court agree to come to our rescue?" Bai Qingshuang asked. "I don't know, but we can't put all our hopes on the Creation Immortal Court. We have to think of a way to deal with the 9 dark half-immortal emperors. Otherwise, I'm afraid we won't be able to escape today." Ning Shukong said slowly, and there was a hint of ruthlessness in his eyes. Then, Ning Shukong looked at Yen Hongye and said, "Princess Hongye, I know you must have a trump card left by the Great Yen Immortal Court. I have a treasure that can withstand the full blow of an immortal emperor, but it's only a defensive treasure, not an offensive treasure. Next, I can help you block the most powerful attack of the 9 dark half-immortal emperors. I wonder if your trump card can kill the dark half-immortal emperors and open a safe passage for us?" Yen Hongye hesitated for a bit before answering, "I do have a treasure. It can't exert the power of an immortal emperor, but it's not far off." "Very well." Ning Shukong's body trembled, and a trace of excitement appeared in his eyes. "I need 10 breaths of time to prepare. If I can kill a few dark half-immortal emperors, we should be able to escape from this army of darkness creatures." Yen Hongye. 10 breaths. "No problem. Princess Hongye, you can do whatever you want. Next, even if I die, I'll hold them off for you for 10 breaths. There was a hint of determination in Ning Shukong's eyes. Rumble. Ning Shukong was surrounded by dazzling immortal light. An ancient and mysterious rune appeared in his palm. The rune was like a dazzling sun, blooming in the 9 heavens. In an instant, it turned into an ancient cauldron with 3 legs and 2 handles. It was emitting an ancient and mysterious aura. Although the aura looked incomparably illusory, it was emitting a vast and eternal heavenly Tao might. The cauldron with 3 legs and 2 ears completely protected Ning Shukong and Yen Hongye. At the same time, Yen Hongye's eyes were filled with a hint of madness. She formed a seal with both of her hands. Dazzling celestial light bloomed, and runes rose into the air, forming a mysterious ancient mirror in front of her. In an instant, the heavens and earth trembled violently. The ancient mirror emitted a terrifying aura that could devour everything. Like a black hole, it kept devouring the vast energy in the surroundings. Even the dark energy was devoured by the ancient mirror. At the same time, the ancient mirror became increasingly solid in the void. A destructive aura gradually erupted from it. "Oh no, kill them." The eyes of the most powerful dark quasi-immortal emperor flashed with killing intent, and he suddenly shouted. He could sense that the ancient mirror that Yen Hongye had summoned was the mark of an eternal emperor weapon. It could unleash the full power of an eternal emperor weapon. Its power was extremely terrifying. If the attack was unleashed, at least one or two of the 9 dark quasi-immortal emperors would be killed. At this moment, even Ning Shukong had a strange look in his eyes. The mirror of life and death? He immediately recognized the ancient mirror that Yen Hongye had summoned. It was the mirror of life and death, the eternal emperor weapon of the great Yen immortal court. It was rumored that once the mirror of life and death appeared, it could determine life and death, divide yin and yang, split the heavens and earth, and destroy the world. Ning Shukong's guess was right. As the eldest princess of the great Yen immortal court, Yen Hongye was extremely talented. She must have some trump cards that the great Yen immortal court had left for her. Among them, the biggest possibility was the mark of the mirror of life and death. Rumble. At the same time, the 9 dark quasi-immortal emperors also attacked at the same time. 9 strange and terrifying dark rays burst out and landed on the 3-legged, 2-eared cauldron in an instant. Dazzling immortal light exploded. The cauldron trembled violently as if it would shatter at any time. There was also a hint of anxiety in Ning Shukong's eyes. The cauldron was the strongest defensive treasure he had. It was also the mark of an eternal emperor weapon. If the 3-legged, 2-eared cauldron shadow was shattered, and the power of the cycle of life and death was not activated, then he and Yen Hongye would very likely be besieged by the 9 dark quasi-immortal emperors. At that time, they would most likely die. Kill! At the same time, Zhou Yuan, by Qingxue, by Qingshuang, and the young man with the ancient sword on his back roared and charged toward the 9 dark quasi-immortal emperors at the same time. They wanted to distract them and buy time for Yen Hongye. Rumble. Violent explosions continued to resound in the void. Although Zhou Yuan and the other 3 were very strong, they had just broken through to the quasi-immortal emperor realm not long ago. They were no match for the 9 dark quasi-immortal emperors. They were directly sent flying. Their bodies shook violently as they coughed up blood. At the same time, cracks began to appear on the 3-legged, 2-eared cauldron. In the end, it completely shattered with a loud bang. Ning Shukong's expression changed drastically. At the same time, the mirror of life and death had also devoured enough power. It was like a dazzling sun, blooming with dazzling immortal light above the 9 heavens. The 9 dark quasi-immortal emperors suddenly felt a chill down their spines. They felt an incomparably cold, murderous intent. In an instant, they wanted to flee into the distance. Boom! The power of the mirror of life and death was completely activated. A dazzling beam of immortal Dao light bloomed and completely shrouded the 9 dark quasi-immortal emperors in front of it. At this moment, Ning Shukong and the others' eyes were filled with incomparable excitement. The 9 dark quasi-immortal emperors, on the other hand, were a little desperate. Being targeted by such a terrifying eternal emperor weapon, they would most likely be severely injured even if they did not die. Chapter 3474. Kacha. However, at this moment, the void was torn apart, and endless dark divine light rose up. A huge dark boundary appeared in front of the 9 dark quasi-immortal emperors, completely blocking the fatal attack of the mirror of life and death. A figure shrouded in darkness appeared in front of the 9 dark quasi-immortal emperors, exuding the aura of the origin of darkness. He was like a supreme ruler, exuding an energy fluctuation that made one's heart tremble. Your Highness! The 9 dark quasi-immortal emperors were overjoyed after surviving a calamity. Their eyes were filled with fanatical worship as they knelt down and saluted. That figure was the Dark Prince. Boom! The Dark Prince waved his hand, and suddenly endless dark divine light bloomed, completely annihilating the brilliant immortal Dao light beam. At this moment, Ning Shukong and Yen Hongye's faces were completely pale. Although they did not know the origin of the Dark Prince, they could see how terrifying and powerful the Dark Prince was from the fact that he could easily break the full-force attack of the mirror of life and death. At the same time, Ning Shukong also saw the ancient dark ring on the Dark Prince's finger, which exuded a heart-palpitating dark aura. The Dark Emperor weapon. Ning Shukong's body trembled, and he could not help but exclaim. The Dark Emperor weapon was the natal divine weapon refined by the Dark Immortal Emperor, and its power was comparable to an eternal emperor weapon. Due to the uniqueness of the Heavenly Dao ancient battlefield, Ning Shukong and Yen Hongye did not bring their Eternal Emperor weapons this time. After all, the Eternal Emperor weapon was the supreme treasure that suppressed the fate of the Immortal Court, and it would not leave the Immortal Court easily. However, how could they resist the Dark Prince who had the Dark Emperor weapon? At this moment, even the scheming Ning Shukong could not help but feel a little desperate. Are there only people from the two Immortal Courts? Where are the people from the Creation Immortal Court? The Dark Prince glanced indifferently at Ning Shukong and Yen Hongye and said slowly, as if he knew the three Immortal Courts very well. The strongest Dark Quasi-Immortal Emperor immediately said respectfully, "Your Highness, the three Immortal Courts are not in the same place. It took us a lot of effort to lure the people from the Celestial Court of Truth and Great Yen Immortal Court here. As for the members of the Celestial Court of Creation, they've been surrounded by Kuei Jun's group. I think we'll be able to capture all of them in a few days." However, at this moment, a cold light suddenly flashed in Prince Dark's eyes as he said indifferently, "Kuei Jun has been killed by the people of the Immortal Court of Creation. I wonder if the people of the Immortal Court of Creation will dare to come here." At that moment, the Dark Prince suddenly sensed that Kuei Jun's aura had completely disappeared. Clearly, the entire Kuei army had been annihilated. What? The 9 great dark half-immortal emperors were both shocked and furious. They couldn't help but cry out in surprise. One should know that Kuei Jun's strength was not weak. He had already reached the 6th heavenly layer of the dark quasi-immortal emperor realm. Was there someone in the Fortune Immortal Court who had such strength to kill Kuei Jun? They're already here. A sharp glint flashed in Prince Darkness's eyes as he suddenly looked at the distant void. 2 dazzling immortal lights tore through the void and came from afar. They instantly arrived above the endless army of dark creatures. They were a handsome and elegant young man and a beautiful young woman. The young man had an imposing appearance and was incomparably handsome. Chaotic light rose around him as if there was an endless scene of the birth and death of the world. He looked mysterious and powerful. It was Ling Xiao. As for the girl, she was shrouded in endless light as if she was the embodiment of light. Her face was beautiful and peerless, making people unable to forget her for a long time. At the same time, there was a trace of a sovereign and a graceful and luxurious temperament, just like a peerless empress. It was Di Hongwan. Ling Xiao and Di Hongwan's eyes flashed as they saw the situation in front of them clearly. The people of the Truth Immortal Court and the Great Yen Immortal Court seemed to be in a bad situation. There were actually 10 powerful dark quasi-immortal emperors in front of them, especially the leader, Prince Darkness, who gave Ling Xiao an extremely dangerous feeling. He was even more dangerous than the 7th heavenly layer of the half-immortal emperor realm. Ling Xiao also instantly noticed the dark ring on Crown Prince Darkness's finger, and his expression became serious. With a complete Dark Emperor weapon, this Prince Darkness must be the strongest and most dangerous of the dark creatures in the army of dark creatures. Should we save them or not? Ling Xiao and Di Hongwan looked at each other and saw the hesitation in each other's eyes. Fellow Taoists, please save us for the sake that we're all humans. There is an immortal emperor's inheritance here. If you are willing to save us, we are willing to give you all the treasures in the place of inheritance, and we will also reward you handsomely. Ning Shukong looked at Ling Xiao and Di Hongwan with great sincerity. That's right, fellow cultivators. I can testify that there is indeed an immortal emperor's inheritance here. Fellow cultivators, please put aside our personal grudges and work together to fight against the dark creatures. Otherwise, if they break out of the Heavenly Dao ancient battlefield, the eternal immortal domain will be plunged into misery and suffering. At that time, the 3 immortal courts will be the first to bear the brunt. Yen Hongye also said solemnly. She seemed to be afraid that Ling Xiao and Di Hongwan would ignore the grudges between the Celestial Court of Truth and the Celestial Court of Creation. That was why she was trying to rope them in under the guise of righteousness. Rumble. At the same time, beams of dazzling divine light shot out from behind Ling Xiao and Di Hongwan. It was Crown Prince Li Wuji and Second Prince Li Wushuang. They had arrived with many experts from the celestial court of creation. However, Crown Prince Li Wuji and Second Prince Li Wushuang's expressions changed when they saw the scene before them. In particular, the 10 powerful quasi-immortal emperors made them want to retreat. Senior Ling Xiao, let's retreat for now. This place is beyond our control. Let's leave the Heavenly Dao ancient battlefield first and inform the 3 immortal courts to prepare for the invasion of the dark creatures. Crown Prince Li Wuji hurriedly transmitted to Ling Xiao. Don't you think it's too late to leave now? Since the 3 immortal courts are all here, it'll save me the trouble of killing all of you in one fell swoop. Crown Prince Dark seemed to have seen through Li Wuji and Li Wushuang's thoughts. He sneered, his eyes filled with cruel killing intent. With a wave of his hand, the quasi-immortal emperors and the army of dark creatures locked onto everyone from the celestial court of creation. At the same time, a mysterious dark energy erupted from Crown Prince Dark's body and locked onto Ling Xiao, Di Hongwan, Li Wuji, and Li Wushuang. At this moment, Crown Prince Li Wuji's heart sank and his face turned extremely ugly. Things had gotten troublesome. It was too late for them to leave even if they wanted to. Chapter 3475. Rumble. Between heaven and earth, the void shook, and dark divine light surged. It contained strange, gloomy, cold, and other oppressive aura fluctuations, causing one to tremble. There was an endless army of dark creatures in all directions. Among them, there were many dark experts with terrifying auras. In particular, the Prince of Darkness and the 9 dark quasi-immortal emperors made everyone's faces turn ugly, and they were terrified. Although there were nearly 20,000 celestial kings in the 3 celestial courts, and there were several quasi-immortal emperors among them, their strength was still inferior to the army of dark creatures in front of them. Prince Li Wuji, Second Prince Li Wushuang, and the others felt extremely uncomfortable when they felt the killing intent of the dark quasi-immortal emperors and the army of dark creatures. They all knew that they would not be able to escape today. Prince Li Wuji, in particular, had a trace of self-blame in his eyes. If he had not been tempted by the so-called land of the immortal emperor's inheritance, he would not have led everyone into this dangerous place. Leave the Prince of Darkness to me, and leave the others to you. Can you hold on? Ling Xiao's eyes flashed as he said slowly, Senior Ling Xiao, the Prince of Darkness has an extremely powerful Dark Emperor weapon. You must be careful. Prince Li Wuji said solemnly. Ling Xiao, this Prince of Darkness is not easy to deal with. You must not be careless. As for the others, you can rest assured that with me around, none of them can disturb you at all. Di Hongwan smiled proudly. I'm not afraid that they will disturb me, but I'm afraid that you can't hold on. Don't die in the hands of the 9 dark quasi-immortal emperors. Ling Xiao glanced at Di Hongwan and said slowly, You're looking down on us too much. Ling Xiao, after I kill the 9 dark quasi-immortal emperors, you can't ask me to save you. Di Hongwan said through gritted teeth, Human clan ant, aren't you afraid of death? A cold light flashed in the eyes of the dark quasi-immortal emperor as he stared at Ling Xiao and said coldly. He did not expect Ling Xiao to be so arrogant. He did not want to escape at this time, but was determined to fight him alone. He even divided the opponents with just a few words. This made the Prince of Darkness feel greatly offended. He was the incomparably noble Crown Prince of Darkness. Even a darkness quasi-immortal emperor had to kneel and tremble in front of him. Even the Dark Immortal Emperor had to give him some face. It was because its identity was too special. Among the countless creatures of darkness, it was known as the future Lord of Darkness. Therefore, in his eyes, a person like Ling Xiao should have a look of fear on his face, trembling all over and running away. Or kneeling down and begging for mercy, that should be the most normal reaction. But he never thought that Ling Xiao would actually be determined to fight with him. You talk too much nonsense. You are not the Darkness Immortal Emperor. Even if you are, so what? Let's see who's the real deal. Fight. Ling Xiao said coldly. Battle intent surged in his eyes as blazing divine light erupted from his body. Ling Xiao could sense that the Dark Prince was extremely powerful. His cultivation had already reached the sixth heaven of the half-immortal emperor realm. Furthermore, he possessed a powerful darkness imperial armament. Even an expert at the ninth heaven of the half-immortal emperor realm wouldn't dare to say that he could win against the Dark Prince. Ling Xiao felt great pressure from the Dark Prince, which stimulated his battle intent even more. Rumble. The void in all directions trembled violently. Ling Xiao was surrounded by the cries of dragons, phoenixes, chilints, and white tigers. All kinds of mysterious immortal beasts appeared behind him. Great worlds were opened up and universes were shattered. Those mysterious scenes provided him with boundless power. He suddenly punched out. The unparalleled fist print was like a dazzling sun. It also seemed to have the power of 10,000 worlds. It locked the void in all directions and completely enveloped the Dark Prince. Gotcha! Before the fist had even landed, the terrifying ripples of aura instantly filled the surrounding 10,000 kilometers. Countless creatures of darkness exploded, turning into the densest source of darkness. Just the aftershocks alone had killed tens of thousands of dark creatures. You are courting death. The Dark Prince's eyes were filled with blood light. His figure flashed and he also punched out. Rumble. His fist print was filled with a layer of dark light. At the same time, the ring also emitted a deep light. Runes enveloped his body, giving him an invincible aura that could destroy everything. Gotcha! The two fist prints collided in the void. In an instant, intense immortal light gushed out as if billions of thunderbolts had exploded at the same time. That terrifying loud sound made everyone in the surroundings feel dizzy. They saw stars and their blood boiled as they retreated continuously. Their eyes were filled with incomparable horror. The power caused by the fight between Ling Xiao and the Dark Prince was too terrifying. In the void, Ling Xiao and the Dark Prince both trembled violently and retreated at the same time. They were actually evenly matched. Buzz! An incomparably crisp sword cry rang out. The sky-devouring sword emitted billions of rays of light and came from afar. It was like a waterfall that was hundreds of millions of miles long, about to slash open heaven and earth. It slashed down toward the Dark Prince. A sharp light flashed in the Dark Prince's eyes. His finger was like a sword. A ray of dark divine light rose up and collided with the sky-devouring sword. Ling Xiao's body was surrounded by immortal light. He took a step forward and instantly teleported thousands of miles across the void. He arrived in front of the sky-devouring sword. Holding the sky-devouring sword in his hand, an incomparably sharp sword light slashed down. That sword light contained the power to destroy everything, as if it was going to completely destroy heaven and earth. This was the supreme emperor art of the three swords of origin. It was so stunning that the Dark Prince's eyes flashed involuntarily. Boom! The Dark Prince also punched out. The Dark Emperor weapon ring seemed to provide him with endless power, making his fist as violent as the Dark Emperor weapon. The incomparably sharp sword light was shattered by his punch. Your strength is not weak. You are worthy of my full strength. The Dark Prince stared at Ling Xiao and said coldly. His eyes revealed a trace of seriousness. He could see that Ling Xiao had just broken through to the quasi-immortal emperor realm, but his combat strength was incomparably terrifying. It made him feel a strong threat. This also aroused the Dark Prince's interest. If you want to fight, then let's fight. Today, you will die without a doubt. Ling Xiao's eyes were incomparably cold. With the sky-devouring sword in his hand, sword chi surged around his body. The sword will spread out, as if it was opening up small worlds one after another, and then shattering them again and again. In the endless chaotic light, sword chi rose. Ling Xiao was like an immortal emperor, controlling fate, life, and death, controlling the life and death of all living things. Chapter 3476. How arrogant! Don't worry, I won't kill you. I'll use the darkness origin to erase your intelligence and turn you into my dark puppet. You'll be my slave for billions of years, never to be reincarnated. A trace of cruelty flashed in the Dark Prince's eyes. He took 3 steps forward, each step seeming to land on the center of heaven and earth. The entire heavenly Tao ancient battlefield trembled violently. A terrifying aura erupted from the Dark Prince's body, one that could destroy everything. Dark judgment killing fists. Prince of Darkness suddenly roared, and then instantly threw 3 punches at Ling Xiao. The 3 fists were like 3 dark suns, blooming in the void. The first fist contained an unparalleled suppressive force that would completely suppress Ling Xiao's body. The second fist mark contained boundless illusions, within which the heavens would be destroyed, and darkness would cover the eternal immortal domains. All living beings would sink into oblivion, and would never be able to rise again. It was clearly designed to crush Ling Xiao's Tao heart. The third fist contained boundless dark killing intent that would drag Ling Xiao's soul into the darkness, never to be reincarnated. The moment these 3 fist marks were unleashed, it was as if a puny mortal was facing an incomparably powerful deity. The god wanted to judge the world and punish all living beings, while the puny mortals were powerless to resist. All they could do was scream and beg for mercy. This was the dark judgment killing fists. This was the supreme fist technique that the Dark Prince had cultivated, inherited from an extremely ancient Dark Immortal Emperor. Legend had it that the Dark Immortal Emperor had almost destroyed all living beings in the eternal immortal domains and allowed darkness to rule the eternal immortal domains. Ling Xiao's eyes flashed with a sharp light. His battle-intent soared, and his body bloomed with dazzling radiance. Sword Qi rose from the heaven-devouring sword in his hand, like the light that would shatter the endless darkness and illuminate the world. Great light illuminating immortal sword. This was an incomparably powerful forbidden technique from the Light Immortal Emperor's inheritance. Ling Xiao felt an enormous pressure in the face of the dark judgment-killing fists. It felt as if his soul and Tao heart were about to collapse. If it was other quasi-immortal emperors, they could only wait for death when facing these 3 fist imprints that could destroy everything. Boundless light blossomed in Ling Xiao's eyes. The world tree sprinkled down rays of light that were impenetrable and untainted by anything. The mysterious and holy light instantly purged the dark qi of slaughter and judgment. Therefore, Ling Xiao was only affected for a moment and immediately counterattacked. The great light illuminating celestial sword bloomed above the 9 heavens like endless flames of light burning fiercely, while the vast aura of darkness in the surroundings melted away like snow. The sword light slashed down from the sky and collided with the 3 ferocious fists. Rumble! In an instant, endless divine light gushed out. Cracks appeared in the void as blazing light burst out. Ling Xiao and the Dark Crown Prince both felt the blood in their bodies churning as they instantly retreated. However, both Ling Xiao and the Black Flame Crown Prince had a crazed look in their eyes. Their fighting spirit soared, causing the surrounding void to tremble violently. In the next moment, both of them roared at the same time, and then charged at each other at the same time. In everyone's eyes, Ling Xiao and the Dark Crown Prince seemed to have turned into a golden and a dark ball of light, constantly colliding in the void. In an instant, they had exchanged dozens of blows, each of which was incomparably fierce, causing the quasi-immortal emperors and the 9 dark quasi-immortal emperors below to tremble. At the same time, Di Hongwan, the Crown Prince Li Wuji, the Second Prince Li Wushuang, Ning Shukong, Yan Hongye, and the other quasi-immortal emperors also charged at the 9 dark quasi-immortal emperors. From a certain point of view, although this army of dark creatures appeared to be imposing and majestic, with unparalleled killing intent, and the number of dark creatures was innumerable, boundless and endless, like densely packed ants, the dark creatures seemed to be innumerable. However, the most powerful forces were naturally the Dark Crown Prince and the 9 dark quasi-immortal emperors. Now, the Dark Crown Prince was fighting fiercely with Ling Xiao, and the 9 dark quasi-immortal emperors were also stopped by Di Hongwan and the others. As for the other dark creatures, they did not pose much of a threat to the people of the 3 immortal courts. The 3 immortal courts formed a battle formation, forming a boundary, and erupted with great defensive and offensive power. They fought fiercely with the dark creatures around them, and in the blink of an eye, countless dark creatures were slaughtered. However, although the dark creatures were killed, they turned into an extremely dense darkness origin, which continuously merged into the bodies of the Dark Crown Prince and the 9 dark quasi-immortal emperors, causing their auras to become stronger and stronger. Therefore, except for Di Hongluan, Ning Shukong, and Yen Hongye, who were stronger and fought the 3 most powerful dark quasi-immortal emperors, the others were caught in a bitter battle and even faintly showed signs of being at a disadvantage. You've learned the great light illuminating immortal sword? Humph, this immortal emperor forbidden technique can only be unleashed with my light sovereign physique's greatest power. Di Hongluan noticed the great light illuminating immortal sword that Ling Xiao had used, and immediately said to herself proudly and unwillingly, "Rumble." Endless radiant immortal light bloomed around her, and the light sovereign physique was completely activated by her. She seemed to have received the support of a peerless immortal emperor, and her entire body bloomed with endless radiance. The light sword in her hand was also extremely sharp. Under her control, it instantly turned into a ray of radiant immortal light that cut through the sky and slashed toward the dark quasi-immortal emperor in front of her. Light was the nemesis of darkness, not to mention that Di Hongluan also had the supreme light sovereign physique. She used the light sovereign physique to activate the great light illuminating immortal sword, making the sword's power extremely terrifying. Pucci. The dark quasi-immortal emperor's eyes were filled with incomparable horror and disbelief. He raised the huge mace in his hand, wanting to block the attack, but it was directly shattered by a dazzling immortal light. Even his body was blasted apart by the sword. Di Hongluan's eyes were cold and battle intent rose. The sword of light in her hand gave off waves of incomparable desire and excitement. Several beams of sword of light slashed down like an endless storm of sword chi, completely destroying the primordial spirit of the dark quasi-immortal emperor. A dark quasi-immortal emperor died in her hands just like that. Crown Prince Li Wuji, Second Prince Li Wushuang, Ning Shukong, Yen Hongye, and the others looked at Di Hongluan with incomparable excitement and shock in their eyes. She was indeed the little princess of the light immortal court. She was indeed someone with the light sovereign physique. Her strength was simply too strong. They saw hope in defeating the army of darkness from Di Hongluan. Di Hongluan shouted softly. After killing a dark quasi-immortal emperor, her confidence soared. The light sword in her hand was extremely sharp, and in an instant, it traversed the void for thousands of miles and attacked another powerful dark quasi-immortal emperor. Chapter 3477. Kacha. The void trembled and thunder roared. The sky trembled violently as cracks appeared in the void. Terrifying turbulence flowed out from the cracks, as if it could wipe out everything. Ling Xiao and the Prince of Darkness were like 2 resplendent suns, constantly colliding. Every time they collided, a storm of divine light would erupt like a tsunami, annihilating everything. Countless creatures of darkness were completely killed. Ling Xiao used the great light illuminating immortal sword. Sword chi rose around him, and the sky-devouring sword slashed at Prince of Darkness. Light was the nemesis of darkness. Although Prince of Darkness's dark judgment fist Dao was extremely powerful, it melted like snow in front of the great light illuminating immortal sword. Rumble. Sword chi swept across the void for hundreds of millions of miles. Every slash caused the space-time to tremble violently. It was as if countless worlds were being annihilated and countless creatures were being born. The scene was extremely terrifying. The great light illuminating immortal sword was like a dazzling light that could illuminate all things, enveloping Prince of Darkness. Prince of Darkness was also incomparably powerful. Dark divine light rose from his body and clashed with the great light illuminating immortal sword, shooting out countless dazzling sparks. He's only a first heaven quasi-immortal emperor, but he can erupt with such powerful battle strength. It seems that he must be the leader of the younger generation in the eternal immortal domain. If I can kill him, it will be a great blow to the eternal immortal domain. So I can't let him leave today. Prince of Darkness's eyes were filled with killing intent. His face was incomparably cold as he thought to himself. Ling Zhao's powerful battle prowess shocked even him to the core. Buzz. The void trembled slightly. The dark ring in Prince of Darkness's hand bloomed with mysterious and dazzling light, enveloping Prince of Darkness in an instant. In an instant, Prince of Darkness's aura soared, exuding an ancient and terrifying aura. His strength seemed to have increased by 100 times in an instant. You're indeed very strong, but this is the end of it. It's your honor to be killed by the Dark Emperor weapon. Now accept your fate. Prince of Darkness's eyes were filled with killing intent. His entire person was incomparably cold as he suddenly slapped at Ling Xiao. At the same time, the dark ring emitted an endless amount of dark light. It turned into a beam of dark light that could penetrate everything and attacked Ling Xiao in an instant. The beam of darkness contained the power to destroy all life. It was terrifying to the extreme. At this moment, even Ling Xiao's body trembled. His eyes were filled with an incomparably grave expression. The Darkness Emperor weapon contained the Darkness Immortal Emperor's origin power and was as powerful as an Eternal Emperor weapon. That beam of dark light seemed to be the Darkness Immortal Emperor's all-out attack, causing Ling Xiao to feel chills all over his body, as if his primordial spirit had been frozen. The moment the dark beam shot out, Ling Xiao had already used his extreme speed, wanting to avoid this attack. However, the Dark Emperor weapon had already locked onto Ling Xiao. The beam of darkness enveloped this part of the void. Just the aftermath of the beam of darkness instantly penetrated the bodies of hundreds of celestial kings, completely melting them. It was as if they had turned into a part of the darkness. It was extremely terrifying. Light flickered in Ling Xiao's palm, and the dragon-shaped jade pendant appeared. In an instant, bright golden light rose up and turned into divine chains of order. They intertwined around Ling Xiao, forming an extremely powerful defensive boundary that protected him within. Rumble! The beam of darkness collided with the golden boundary, producing an earth-shattering sound. The void suddenly cracked open. Ling Xiao's entire body seemed to be swallowed by the void turbulence, and he directly entered the endless dark turbulence. As for the beam of darkness, it constantly destroyed the golden boundary around Ling Xiao. In the end, the beam of darkness disappeared due to the exhaustion of its power. However, the golden boundary around Ling Xiao also became extremely dim. It was likely that it would completely shatter after taking another hit. The dragon-shaped jade pendant was a defensive treasure that Di Hongwan had given to Ling Xiao. Ling Xiao had not expected the Dark Emperor weapon to be so powerful that its beam of darkness could penetrate everything. Without the protection of the jade pendant, even Ling Xiao's peerlessly strong body would not have been able to withstand the beam of darkness. You have a defensive treasure left behind by an immortal emperor. It seems that your status in the eternal immortal domain is not ordinary. However, this is the ancient battlefield of the heavenly Tao. Even an immortal emperor cannot save you. Today I, the Crown Prince, will kill you. No one can save you. The Crown Prince of Darkness sneered, his eyes filled with icy killing intent. Boom! He activated the dark ring again. The Dark Emperor weapon exuded the boundless might of the heavenly Tao of darkness, as if it could destroy 10,000 layers of the universe in an instant. Another beam of incomparably terrifying dark light shot towards Ling Xiao. Ling Xiao's eyes flashed sharply. Holding the heaven-devouring sword, he erupted with dazzling immortal light. Without dodging, he slashed his sword at the beam of darkness. Boom! The heaven-devouring sword seemed to have been activated. Mysterious runes of the great Tao gushed out from it, containing vast and ethereal energy fluctuations. The power of the sword seemed to have increased by dozens of times in an instant. It was completely sublimated to the extreme. It collided with the beam of darkness. The surrounding void turbulence trembled violently, forming all kinds of mysterious and unfathomable scenes. Although Ling Xiao's sword was incomparably sharp, it only blocked part of the beam of darkness. In the end, the defensive boundary formed by the dragon-shaped jade pendant was still struck by the beam of darkness and shattered with a loud bang. Then, Ling Xiao's entire body was enveloped by a dense origin of darkness. Oh no! At this moment, Di Hongwan saw this scene from afar. Her entire body shook violently, and her eyes were filled with anxiety and worry. She knew that Ling Xiao was very powerful. Even a peak quasi-immortal emperor expert might not be able to kill him. However, the Crown Prince of Darkness's strength was unfathomable. With the help of the Dark Emperor weapon, Ling Xiao was no match for the Crown Prince of Darkness. Seeing that Ling Xiao was in danger, Di Hongwan's heart involuntarily rose to her throat. "Senior Ling Xiao, you must block it. Otherwise, I'm afraid everyone from the 3 celestial courts will die here." Crown Prince Li Wuji and Second Prince Li Wushuang looked at each other. Their eyes were filled with worry, especially Second Prince Li Wushuang. At this moment, it seemed that he did not care about Ling Xiao at all. He even hoped that Ling Xiao's strength would be as strong as possible. It would be best if he could create a miracle and completely kill the Crown Prince of Darkness. The Crown Prince of Darkness was too strong. He was so strong that Crown Prince Li Wuji, Second Prince Li Wushuang, Di Hongwan, Ning Shukong, Yan Hongye, and the other supreme talents all felt a deep sense of powerlessness. Now, only Ling Xiao could fight with the Crown Prince of Darkness. Rumble. The origin of darkness surged violently as if it contained a life of its own. It kept swimming into Ling Xiao's body, wanting to completely assimilate him, erase his intelligence, and turn him into a dark puppet without any consciousness. Chapter 3478. At this moment, the world tree between Ling Xiao's eyebrows emitted a dazzling radiance. Branches and leaves slowly extended out and merged into Ling Xiao's body. It began to absorb and devour the power of the origin of darkness. The origin of darkness that had entered Ling Xiao's body was like a mouse that had seen a cat. It emitted an incomparably terrified emotional fluctuation and wanted to escape from Ling Xiao's body. However, as expected, it was all devoured and absorbed by the world tree. Rumble. A huge black hole seemed to have appeared in Ling Xiao's body, devouring the origin of darkness around him. Then, dazzling golden light gushed out from his body. Like a peerless war god, he instantly rushed out of the endless darkness. What? Crown Prince Tian's body shook, and the smile on his face instantly froze. The Dark Emperor weapon in his hand was called the Ring of Oblivion. It was left behind by an extremely powerful and terrifying Dark Immortal Emperor. The dark divine light it emitted was called the Oblivion Light. It could cause all living things to fall into darkness. Even a quasi-immortal emperor couldn't be spared. In his opinion, Ling Xiao's intelligence should have been completely erased after being struck by the light of oblivion, and he should have become his dark puppet. However, he didn't expect Ling Xiao to shatter the oblivion light and break free from it. Kill! Ling Xiao's eyes were dazzling with divine light. It was as if an endless chaotic void had appeared. Within it, an indomitable ancient divine tree that pierced through the chaos appeared. Every leaf was an ancient world. Every branch was like a long river of time and space. It could pierce through the ancient history of a civilization and condense a chapter of civilization. It was extremely mysterious and unfathomable. At this moment, the sky-devouring sword in Ling Xiao's hand seemed to be contaminated with an extremely mysterious divine power. It was extremely powerful as it slashed down toward Crown Prince Tian. Crown Prince Tian's expression changed. He activated the Ring of Oblivion again, and a beam of oblivion light shot toward Ling Xiao. However, that beam of oblivion light was instantly destroyed by Ling Xiao's sky-devouring sword. Endless power surged out of Ling Xiao's body. He seemed to have merged with the world tree as he charged toward Crown Prince Tian. The chaos fist mark pierced through the void in all directions, and Ling Xiao smashed a fist toward Crown Prince Darkness. The incomparably huge fist print seemed to have transformed into tens of thousands of figures in an instant. They were sparkling and resplendent in the void as they attacked the Prince of Darkness at the same time. At this moment, Crown Prince Darkness's eyes were filled with disbelief. He had never imagined that the Ring of Oblivion, the incomparably powerful Emperor weapon of darkness, the weapon that had once reaped the lives of countless quasi-immortal emperors, would actually be ineffective against Ling Xiao. And within Ling Xiao's body, there was a kind of energy fluctuation that made Crown Prince Darkness tremble in fear. Kill! The Dark Prince's eyes were cold. His arrogance didn't allow him to retreat. He used a supreme Dark Emperor technique, and dark divine light surged around him like a vast ocean. He attacked Ling Xiao unceasingly and collided with Ling Xiao. Rumble. Heaven and earth trembled violently as boundless spatial turbulence swept across the area. At this moment, Crown Prince Darkness was completely suppressed by Ling Xiao. Those fist marks exploded one after another. Ling Xiao's attack was incomparably fierce. It blasted onto Crown Prince Darkness's body, causing him to tremble violently and his aura to become incomparably chaotic. And the dark energy that seemed to be able to erode everything, when it came into contact with Ling Xiao's body, seemed to be devoured by a black hole. In an instant, it was absorbed by Ling Xiao without a trace. At this moment, Ling Xiao's strength seemed to have skyrocketed by dozens of times. Every sword strike could slash through hundreds of millions of miles of void, and every punch could kill hundreds of millions of creatures. He constantly blasted toward Crown Prince Darkness. Streaks of sword light were left on Crown Prince Darkness's body. He was in an incomparably sorry state. He roared again and again. The dark origin power that gushed out from his body was completely devoured and refined by Ling Xiao. Crown Prince Darkness's body suddenly trembled violently as if he had thought of something. His eyes were filled with disbelief as he exclaimed, You actually merged with a world tree?" His voice contained disbelief, as well as a trace of deep fear and dread. "Kill!" Ling Xiao roared. His eyes were like iron, and the aura around him was incomparably cold. Blazing and dazzling golden light gushed out. He threw a punch at Crown Prince Darkness. It was like an Archean divine domain that had been reinforced with the power of 6 billion worlds. In an instant, it blasted onto Crown Prince Darkness's body, causing him to tremble violently. A trace of black blood flowed out from his mouth as he was sent flying. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. As if confirming Crown Prince Darkness's guess, Ling Xiao took a step forward and arrived in front of him in an instant. Sparkling and translucent branches shot out from his palm. They were incomparably fierce, as if they were sharper than the sky-devouring sword. They instantly pierced through Crown Prince Darkness's incomparably sturdy body and began to extract the dark origin power within his body. What? It really is a world tree. Crown Prince Darkness's face was incomparably ugly. His eyes were filled with incomparable horror. He began to frantically activate the Darkness Imperial weapon on his finger, triggering endless oblivion light. He wanted to completely engulf and drown Ling Xiao. However, Ling Xiao's body was shrouded in resplendent light. Immortal light rose, and the shadow of the world tree appeared around him. It took root in the chaos, swallowing and spitting out endless chaotic power. At this moment, the branches of the world tree probed into Crown Prince Darkness's body, constantly extracting and refining the dark origin power within his body. The dark origin power seemed to provide the world tree with incomparably sufficient nourishment, causing it to emit waves of joyful emotions. The world tree could devour the dark origin power. It was the nemesis of the dark origin power. As it devoured the dark origin power within Crown Prince Darkness's body, the world tree seemed to turn black and white. It intertwined with yin and yang qi, becoming more and more mysterious and abstruse. Rumble. The sky-devouring sword in Ling Xiao's hand swept out. The incomparably fierce sword light seemed to directly split the heavens and the earth, splitting Crown Prince Darkness in half. As for the oblivion light, it was completely devoured by the world tree when it came into contact with Ling Xiao's body. Rumble. The aura around Ling Xiao became more and more mysterious, and his entire person became more and more unfathomable. As for Crown Prince Darkness's aura, it became weaker and weaker. At this moment, after being split in half by Ling Xiao, he had no power to resist. It was as if he could only allow the world tree to devour and refine him. As a result, everyone saw this mysterious and shocking scene. A huge world tree rooted in the chaos suppressed the universe and destroyed everything. The branches completely penetrated Crown Prince Darkness, constantly absorbing the dark origin power within his body. Crown Prince Darkness finally couldn't help but let out an incomparably miserable cry. It resounded between the heavens and the earth, causing everyone to tremble. They couldn't help but reveal an incomparably shocked and awed expression. Chapter 3479. At this moment, everyone was stunned. Especially those dark quasi-immortal emperors. Their eyes were filled with disbelief and fear. What did they see? The powerful Prince of Darkness had been pierced through by Ling Xiao and was being devoured and refined. And the Prince of Darkness looked like he was in great pain and had no strength to resist. How could this be? That was the powerful Prince of Darkness. Even the immortal Emperor of Darkness had to treat him with respect. He had an extremely high status among the creatures of darkness. In the past, he was always high up and looked down on all living things. When had he ever revealed such a sorry and miserable appearance? Di Hongwan, Crown Prince Li Wuji, Second Prince Li Wushuang, and the others all looked very excited. As the saying goes, capture the ringleader first to capture the bandits. Now that Ling Xiao had defeated the most powerful Prince of Darkness, as long as Ling Xiao could kill him, the crisis they were facing at this moment would be easily resolved. Rumble! Blazing divine light trembled in the void all around. The void surged, and the darkness origin kept surging. Many dark quasi-immortal emperors and dark creatures were shocked and angry. They all rushed toward Ling Xiao fearlessly, wanting to save the Prince of Darkness. Stop them! Di Hongwan roared. The radiant immortal sword in her hand bloomed with dazzling light that traversed hundreds of millions of miles of void. The incomparably sharp sword Qi swept away thousands of dark creatures in an instant. Then she directly rushed into the sky and blocked those dark quasi-immortal emperors. Ning Shukong, Yan Hongye, and the others did not dare to be negligent. They knew that at this moment, all hope was on Ling Xiao. If Ling Xiao could not kill the Prince of Darkness, it would be extremely difficult for them to escape today. Therefore, at this moment, they did not dare to be negligent or scheming. They all used their most powerful divine powers to meet those dark quasi-immortal emperors. Rumble! The battle between the three immortal courts and the dark creatures became more and more intense. It was as if there were hundreds of millions of thunderbolts exploding around Ling Xiao. The world tree in his body emitted a dazzling radiance. Translucent branches pierced through Prince Darkness like tentacles, then devoured the darkness origin in his body. The world tree seemed to have an extremely powerful restraining effect on the darkness origin source. Although the Dark Prince had many means, he was unable to move at all after being engulfed and imprisoned by the world tree. His eyes were filled with fury, shock, and despair as he let out a crazy roar. Ant-like thing, quickly release this prince. Otherwise, when my army of darkness enters the eternal immortal domains, you'll be killed beyond the shadow of a doubt, even if you flee to the ends of the earth. The Dark Prince was also very unyielding. He didn't have the slightest intention of begging for mercy. Even now, he was still threatening Ling Xiao, not showing any signs of backing down. Then we'll talk about it after you survive today. Ling Xiao replied coldly. He poured all of his magic power into the world tree, causing it to shine brightly and continuously extract the darkness origin source. As the world tree absorbed the darkness origin source, its aura grew stronger and stronger, as if it had received powerful nourishment. It took root deep within Ling Xiao's nascent spirit, then began to swell with a vast and mysterious aura of the Tao. Ling Xiao seemed to have fallen into a mysterious state of enlightenment. Boundless laws of the eternal heavenly Tao swirled around him, and his aura and cultivation advanced by leaps and bounds. At this moment, a branch from the tree of world pierced through the forehead of the Dark Prince, wanting to completely penetrate his primordial spirit. However, the Dark Prince's nascent spirit suddenly released a strange and mysterious ripple. It was as if a dark boundary had emerged, protecting his nascent spirit within. The boundary was ancient and mysterious, interwoven with the eternal power of darkness, and blocked the world tree's branch. Who dares harm His Excellency the Dark Prince? An ancient and cryptic ripple of nascent spirit emanated from the boundary. The boundary shone brightly, and a figure with a terrifying aura vaguely appeared. The figure looked at Ling Xiao from across time and space, and his eyes were filled with monstrous killing intent. Dark Immortal Emperor. Ling Zhao's body trembled, and his eyes were filled with a solemn expression. Although that gaze was looking at him through layers of time and space, it still made him feel extremely powerful pressure. Only the legendary Immortal Emperor experts had such terrifying and mysterious power. Ling Zhao didn't expect the Dark Prince's identity to be so terrifying. Even the Dark Immortal Emperor addressed him as His Excellency the Dark Prince? Break! Ling Zhao's eyes flashed with divine light, and he instantly activated the World Tree. More branches emerged from the World Tree, and they pierced through the boundary around the Dark Prince's nascent spirit. Rumble! The World Tree's branches were extremely powerful, as if they were eternal Emperor weapons. They contained a power fluctuation that could penetrate and destroy everything. Although the dark boundary was extremely powerful, it was still violently trembling under the World Tree's branches. Dark runes were annihilated, and the dark boundary's power grew dimmer and dimmer. I don't care who you are, you're dead meat. How dare you attack His Excellency the Dark Prince? No place in this world can protect you. The eyes of the Dark Immortal Emperor were filled with monstrous killing intent. Although he was getting more and more blurry, the terrifying killing intent in his eyes was like a flame that wanted to break through the endless space-time and attack Ling Zhao, completely burning him into ashes. Wait until you find me first. Ling Zhao replied coldly. Since he had already become enemies with the Dark Prince, he didn't believe that the Dark Immortal Emperors would let him go even if he released the Dark Prince now. In that case, he might as well kill the Dark Prince first. Perhaps this would eliminate a great enemy for the eternal immortal domains. With a crisp sound, hundreds of branches of the World Tree instantly pierced through the barrier of darkness. They emitted a sparkling and translucent light as they pierced through the primordial spirit of the Dark Prince in an instant. No! Crown Prince Darkness let out an incomparably terrified roar. He hadn't expected Ling Zhao to be able to break through the dark boundary of his nascent spirit. It was a powerful boundary left behind by several Dark Immortal Emperors. It was terrifying to the extreme, and even an Immortal Emperor expert couldn't easily destroy it. This was why he was so confident. However, he hadn't expected the World Tree in Ling Zhao's nascent spirit's consciousness to be so terrifying that it could break through the dark boundary. Chapter 3480. The Prince of Darkness wanted to say something, but the branches of the World Tree were extremely sharp and pierced through his primordial spirit like a spear. The darkness origin contained in his primordial spirit was instantly devoured and absorbed by the World Tree. In the end, the Prince of Darkness's primordial spirit suddenly exploded into countless dark fragments. The World Tree seemed to have turned into a huge black hole, devouring all the fragments of the primordial spirit. Boom! The Prince of Darkness's body rapidly shriveled, like a mummy, and finally exploded into ashes. All the origin and energy were devoured and absorbed by the World Tree, and then disappeared without a trace. What? The dark quasi-immortal emperors were all shocked, and their eyes were filled with disbelief. Their hearts were even filled with horror. The Prince of Darkness's identity was too precious and honorable. They could imagine what kind of consequences they would have to bear if the Prince of Darkness died. It was a pain where they could neither live nor die. When they thought of it, they trembled all over. Kill him! The eyes of the dark quasi-immortal emperors instantly turned blood red. They crazily abandoned their original opponents, and then charged toward Ling Zhao without fear of death. At this moment, Ling Zhao was sitting cross-legged in the void, surrounded by ethereal immortal light and chaotic mist. His whole person looked ethereal and peaceful. Behind him, in the endless chaotic light, an ancient tree seemed to vaguely appear. It took root in the chaos, and above its head were the sun, the moon, and the stars. It was surrounded by the long river of time and space. It looked crystal clear and mysterious. At this moment, Ling Zhao seemed to have sunk into a mysterious state of enlightenment. The darkness origin contained in the Prince of Darkness's body was too strong and vast. Although most of it was devoured by the World Tree, there was still a part that merged into Ling Zhao's body, making his aura and cultivation constantly improve. Protect Ling Xiao! Di Hongwan shouted angrily. The radiant immortal sword in her hand was filled with sword qi, blocking in front of the dark quasi-immortal emperors. The people of the Crown Prince Li Wuji and the second prince Li Wushuang also attacked, trying to stop the dark quasi-immortal emperors. Although they didn't know what was going on with Ling Xiao, they could vaguely see that Ling Xiao's cultivation had broken through after devouring and refining the Prince of Darkness. Therefore, they were determined to protect Ling Xiao and not allow these dark quasi-immortal emperors to disturb Ling Xiao's breakthrough. At this moment, Ning Shukong looked at Ling Xiao with deep jealousy. Although Ling Xiao had brought the immortal court of creation to save him and Yan Hongye, he didn't feel the slightest gratitude in his heart. Instead, he was incomparably jealous of Ling Xiao. He was jealous of Ling Xiao's great talent, and even more jealous of Ling Xiao's outstanding battle prowess. Even the Dark Crown Prince had died in Ling Xiao's hands, greatly suppressing his limelight. Therefore, at this moment he did not show any signs of attacking when he saw the dark quasi-immortal emperors charging towards Ling Xiao. Instead, he watched coldly as the dark quasi-immortal emperors charged towards Ling Xiao. Xian, Yan Hongye took a deep look at Ning Shukong. She didn't leave him to die. Instead, she said to Zhou Yuan. In an instant, she led the many experts of the great Yan Immortal Court and charged towards the dark quasi-immortal emperor. Xian XS, Xian by Qingxue and by Qingshuang transmitted their voices to Ning Shukong at the same time. You found the entrance to the immortal emperor's inheritance? Very good, let's go. We'll immediately head to the land of legacy and let them fight to the death here. If both of them are seriously injured, we might be able to reap the benefits. Ning Shukong transmitted his voice to Bai Qingxue and Bai Qingshuang, his eyes flashing coldly. Yes. Bai Qingxue, Bai Shuang, and the gray-robed young man with the ancient sword on his back bowed and accepted the order. Then, they quietly left the battlefield with Ning Shukong. When no one was paying attention, they moved toward the entrance of the immortal emperor's inheritance. Damn it! Ning Shukong and the others actually ran away. Crown Prince Li Wuji's eyes flashed with a cold light as he said furiously, I'm afraid they didn't run away. They must have gone to seize the immortal emperor's inheritance. They want us to fight for them while they search for the immortal emperor's inheritance. What a good plan. The second prince Li Wushuang also said coldly. His eyes were filled with incomparably cold killing intent. At this moment, everyone from the Creation Immortal Court and the Great Yan Immortal Court were dissatisfied with Ning Shukong and the others. However, there was nothing they could do. The 8 dark quasi-immortal emperors in front of them were extremely powerful and pressured them greatly. They were all at a disadvantage. Each of them fearlessly charged toward Ling Xiao, wanting to kill Ling Xiao to avenge the Dark Crown Prince. They couldn't even take care of themselves, let alone the people from the Truth Immortal Court. Rumble! The 8 darkness quasi-immortal emperors surged forward like a torrent, unleashing powerful darkness emperor arts. Each of them had monstrous strength and suppressed Di Hongwan, Li Wuji, Li Wushuang, Yan Hongye, and Zhou Yuan. The 2 immortal courts only had 5 quasi-immortal emperors in total. Facing the 8 powerful dark quasi-immortal emperors, they were all in a tough battle. Rumble! At this moment, chaotic lightning surged around Ling Xiao. The world tree behind him bloomed with dazzling light. A vast and terrifying pressure enveloped the 8 dark quasi-immortal emperors. At the same time, the branches of the world tree intertwined with each other like spears that could pierce through everything. They were also like dense tentacles, forming a huge net that covered the sky and covered the earth, enveloping the 8 darkness quasi-immortal emperors. Oh no, run! The 8 dark quasi-immortal emperors' expressions changed drastically. Their eyes were filled with incomparable fear. Now that they were facing the branches of the world tree, they finally understood what the Dark Crown Prince had encountered and why he couldn't resist at all. When they saw the world tree and the aura it emitted, their bodies trembled violently. Their hearts were filled with uncontrollable fear. They turned around and wanted to escape. However, the branches of the world tree were incomparably sharp. They easily tore through their physical defenses and penetrated their bodies. At the same time, they began to frantically extract the dark origin in their bodies. Even someone as powerful as the Dark Crown Prince couldn't resist at all after being penetrated by the World Tree. Although the 8 dark quasi-immortal emperors were powerful, they didn't have as many tricks as the Dark Crown Prince. Therefore, they couldn't resist at all. They all showed incomparable fear and despair as they watched the dark origin in their bodies being devoured and refined by the World Tree. Chapter 3481. Rumble. The void around them trembled violently. Ling Zhao's body was shrouded in golden radiance and chaotic light. His robe was whiter than snow, and his black hair fluttered in the wind. He looked like an immortal supreme immortal emperor, surrounded by various mysterious phenomena that seemed capable of tearing apart the world. His aura was terrifying to the extreme. Behind him, an ancient world tree, rooted in the chaotic void, emerged, blooming with dazzling light and surrounded by a mysterious Dao domain. The world tree's branches swayed, and its leaves floated in the air. Each leaf seemed to represent an ancient great world that nurtured countless living beings. The world tree seemed to be the origin of all the worlds. Anyone who looked at it would tremble uncontrollably. Translucent branches of the world tree stabbed into the bodies of the 8 darkness quasi-immortal emperors, tearing their bodies apart and devouring the darkness origin in their bodies. The eyes of the 8 dark quasi-immortal emperors were filled with horror, but they didn't have the strength to resist. They could only watch as the darkness source in their bodies was drained away, and their life aura was dissipating. Di Hongwan, Crown Prince Li Wuji, Second Prince Li Wushuang, Yan Hongye, and the others trembled in fear. Their eyes were filled with awe. Di Hongwan's mouth was agape, and her eyes were filled with disbelief. She looked at Ling Xiao as if she was looking at the incomparably powerful Radiance Immortal Emperor ancestor of the Radiance Immortal Court. Both of them exuded the same aura. It was the aura of someone who controlled the eternal heavenly Tao and was immortal and indestructible. If she hadn't known that Ling Xiao had broken through to the quasi-immortal emperor realm not long ago, she would have thought that Ling Xiao was an old immortal emperor monster. This is too terrifying. This guy is so strong. There's a world tree in his body. No wonder he can devour the darkness origin. Di Hongwan's eyes flashed with envy when she saw the ancient and mysterious world tree rooted in the chaotic void behind Ling Xiao. Even in the eternal immortal domains, the world tree was an unimaginable supreme treasure. According to the legends, only when an immortal and eternal world was born and destroyed could a heaven-defying divine object like the world tree be born. The world tree could create an undying world that existed independently of the eternal immortal domains. According to the legends, the deathless world created by the world tree, if fully developed, could become a second eternal immortal domain. In the history of the eternal immortal domains, all of the chosen who had acquired the world tree had been incredibly talented. In the end, all of them had relied on the world tree to become immortal emperors, eternally indestructible. Therefore, Di Hongwan also understood that Ling Xiao must be someone with great luck. With the world tree and his heaven-defying talent, it would not be difficult for him to become an eternal immortal emperor. They could even be like that legendary genius who went against the heavens, going against the heavens and peering into that supreme forbidden realm. Rumble. Boundless darkness origin gushed out from all directions, forming a black devouring vortex around Ling Xiao, devouring the darkness origin. The Dark Prince had died at Ling Xiao's hands, and the 9 dark subimmortal emperors had all been killed by him. The rest of the Dark Army had no one to command them, so they fled like headless flies. Most of them didn't manage to escape the world tree's devouring. They were all covered by the branches of the world tree and turned into the purest darkness origin. They were all devoured by the world tree and integrated into Ling Xiao's body. At the same time, Ling Xiao's cultivation base began to skyrocket. In just a few moments, his cultivation base had stabilized at the first heaven of the half-immortal emperor realm, and he quickly broke through to the second heaven of the half-immortal emperor realm. In the end, his cultivation base stopped at the third heaven of the half-immortal emperor realm. The eyes of Di Hongwan and the others were filled with shock. Ling Zhao's cultivation had broken through 2 heavenly layers just by devouring these creatures of darkness. His cultivation speed was simply unprecedented. It should be known that after reaching the half-immortal emperor realm, unless one had heaven-defying resources and good fortune, it would take thousands or even tens of thousands of years to cultivate each heavenly level. There were even half-immortal emperors who had survived from the Antiquity Age who had not been able to break through from the first heaven of the half-immortal emperor realm to the 9th heaven of the half-immortal emperor realm. This showed how difficult it was to cultivate in the half-immortal emperor realm. There were 9 heavens of the half-immortal emperor realm, and the difference in strength between each heavenly level was extremely huge. Therefore, even though Di Hongwan had heaven-defying talent, the light sovereign physique, the immortal emperor's inheritance, and many other trump cards, she was only at the first heaven of the true immortal realm. Facing a 5th or 6th heaven of the half-immortal emperor realm, she still found it extremely difficult. If they were at the true immortal realm or the immortal king realm, with Di Hongwan's terrifying talent, it was not impossible for her to fight an enemy who was 1 realm higher. However, in the half-immortal emperor realm, the difference in cultivation base and strength was extremely huge. It was like a chasm that could not be crossed. Rumble. The figures of the 8 darkness quasi-immortal emperors exploded in the void, turning into dust and disappearing with the wind. Their darkness origins had been completely devoured and refined by the world tree. The heavenly Tao ancient battlefield was now empty. The army of half-immortal emperor realm, which had been densely packed with hundreds of millions of half-immortal emperors, was now completely gone. The heavenly Tao ancient battlefield was once again empty and desolate. Ling Xiao slowly descended from the void. The dazzling light around him slowly dissipated, and his powerful and unfathomable aura slowly withdrew. At this moment, everyone from the Creation Immortal Court and the Great Yen Immortal Court looked at him with reverence in their eyes. They felt that their bodies were filled with explosive power. Ling Zhao's eyes shone brightly, and he was very satisfied. He could feel that he could now tear apart the void of the eternal immortal domain with a single punch. It was clear that his strength had undergone an earth-shattering transformation. 3rd heaven of the half-immortal emperor realm? It seems that I'm not far from the eternal immortal emperor realm. Ling Xiao thought to himself, and a hint of anticipation flashed in his eyes. At this moment, the great Yen Immortal Court's eldest princess, Yen Hongya, walked over to Ling Xiao, followed by Zhou Yuan, who looked extremely awkward. Many thanks for saving our lives, fellow Taoist Ling Xiao. The great Yen Immortal Court is eternally grateful. I previously heard that Zhou Yuan had offended fellow Taoist Ling Xiao, so I apologize to fellow Taoist Ling Xiao on his behalf. This is the great Yen Immortal Court's life and death writ. Consider it my apology on behalf of Zhou Yuan. Please accept it. Yen Hongya said sincerely to Ling Xiao. Life and death writ? The eldest princess is really generous. I didn't expect her to take out a life and death writ. Senior Ling Xiao, this life and death writ is a good thing. It can mobilize the Great Yan's eternal emperor weapon, the life-death mirror, to launch a full-force attack for you. It can also make the Great Yen Immortal Court owe you a favor. As long as they can do it, they will do their best. That's why the life and death writ is so precious. Throughout history, the Great Yen Immortal Court has never given out more than 5 life and death writ. Crown Prince Li Wuji said with some emotion, as if he was explaining the function of the life and death writ to Ling Xiao. If that's the case, I won't stand on ceremony. Ling Xiao's heart skipped a beat. He nodded his head and kept the life and death token. The fact that the life and death writ could mobilize the Great Yen Immortal Court's eternal emperor weapon, the life-death mirror, showed that the life and death writ was indeed a good thing. It would be of great use to Ling Xiao. If he used it well, he could use it as a trump card. Although the Great Yen Immortal Court was weak now, it still had the eternal emperor weapon to suppress its luck and foundation. Its strength should not be underestimated. Senior Ling Xiao, we saved that bastard Ning Shenkong, But he ran away, leaving us to face the 8 immortal emperors alone while he himself ran away. He's really hateful. Why don't we find them and kill all the people of the Truth Immortal Court? The second Prince Li Wushuang said with a face full of resentment. Because of the competition between him and Crown Prince Li Wuji, he was very unhappy with Ling Xiao. However, after so many battles in the heavenly ancient battlefield, he was deeply impressed by Ling Xiao's strength. He no longer had any resistance to Ling Xiao and even wanted to befriend and rope him in. Ning Shukong is indeed unkind, but the Truth Immortal Court is very powerful. If you kill him, I'm afraid you'll be in big trouble. Yen Hongye frowned slightly and said slowly, Big trouble? Is the Creation Immortal Court not in big enough trouble? We're already mortal enemies with the Truth Immortal Court, and we won't rest until one of us is dead. Since Ning Shukong was unkind first, he can't blame us for being rude to him. Even Crown Prince Li Wuji, who had always been steady and kind, was angry when Ning Shukong was mentioned. His eyes flashed with cold light, and his body was full of monstrous killing intent. Ling Xiao's expression did not change, and he did not comment. Yen Hongye pondered for a moment and said slowly, I can tell you where Ning Shukong is. They found a place where the eternal celestial emperor's inheritance is not far from here. I can lead you to the entrance. However, the great Yen Immortal Court will not be involved in the feud between the Creation Immortal Court and the Truth Immortal Court. Please forgive us, Crown Prince, Second Prince, and Ling Xiao. After all, the great Yen Immortal Court was too weak compared to the Truth Immortal Court. It was understandable that they did not want to offend the Truth Immortal Court. Moreover, Yen Hongye's willingness to help Ling Xiao and the others find Ning Shukong was a great show of sincerity. Therefore, Li Wuji and Li Shuang did not make things difficult for her. They nodded and agreed. Under Yen Hongye's lead, Ling Xiao, Di Hongluan, Li Wuji, Li Wushuang, and the others walked toward a black stone forest. The stone forest covered an area of thousands of miles. There were rugged rocks everywhere, and they were filled with a strong aura of darkness origin. However, there were no dark creatures here. Ordinary people did not want to be contaminated by the aura of darkness, so they did not pay attention to this place. However, the deeper they went, the more Ling Xiao's eyes flashed. He felt a faint but obscure Taoist rhyme permeating the air. The mysterious Taoist rhyme was incompatible with the surrounding aura of darkness. It seemed to point to something hidden in the depths of the stone forest. Finally, under Yen Hongye's lead, they arrived at the depths of the stone forest. There was a strange-looking black rock in the depths of the stone forest. It looked like a dark stone door. There was a faint fluctuation of void energy coming from it. It vaguely led to a strange world. Ling Xiao could sense that there was originally an extremely powerful seal or formation barrier on the dark stone door, but it had already been broken through. Clearly, someone had gotten there first and entered it. This is the place of the Celestial Emperor's inheritance. I don't know which ancient Celestial Emperor left it behind. If you're looking for Ning Shukong, he should be here. Yen Hongye said slowly. Thank you, Your Highness. In that case, let's go in and have a look. Your Highness, please help yourself. Crown Prince Li Wuji said with a faint smile. Yen Hongye's eyes flashed with an apologetic light. However, she knew that the great Yen Immortal Court couldn't interfere in the grudge between the Celestial Court of Truth and the Celestial Court of Fortune. She couldn't get involved in this mess, so she nodded at Li Wuji and Li Wushuang before leading the rest of the great Yen Immortal Court away. A powerful Dark Crown Prince had appeared in the Heavenly Dao ancient battlefield, along with 9 powerful Dark Quasi-Emperors. They were leading an army of darkness to attack the eternal immortal domains. If it weren't for Ling Xiao, they would have all been killed by the army of darkness. Therefore, she had to leave immediately and report this news. When Yen Hongye left, she took the celestial kings of the Celestial Court of Fortune with her. Only Ling Xiao, Di Hongluan, Li Wuji, and Li Wushuang remained. Those celestial kings would only increase the number of casualties. They wouldn't be of much help. Therefore, Li Wuji asked Yen Hongye to lead them out of the Heavenly Dao ancient battlefield. After Yen Hongye left, only Ling Xiao, Di Hongluan, Li Wuji, and Li Wushuang remained in front of the black stone door. Let's go. Ling Zhao's eyes flashed as he took the lead and stepped through the black stone door. Rumble. The void trembled, and divine light surged. Everywhere was a vast expanse of whiteness, as if they were standing in the middle of the sun. Nothing could be seen except for the boundless radiance. Chaotic currents surged all around them, as if they were in a realm of nothingness, where nothing existed. The turbulent currents surged like great waves, constantly destroying the void and shattering all things. They condensed into incomparably mysterious small worlds. This is the Chaos Sea? Ling Zhao's body trembled as a trace of shock appeared in his eyes. The eternal immortal domains could be considered a vast continent floating above the endless Chaos Sea. He had never imagined that after passing through the black stone door, they would appear in the middle of the Chaos Sea. However, there was a powerful, transparent boundary between them and the Chaos Sea that seemed to separate them from everything else. This is the Chaos Sea, no doubt about it. The powerful celestial emperor must have torn apart the space of the eternal immortal domains and opened up a cave abode in the Chaos Sea. Di Hongwan's eyes were filled with curiosity as she spoke slowly. They walked forward slowly and saw an incomparably ancient chaos divine mountain in front of them. It emitted boundless chaotic light, and its aura was majestic and incomparably majestic. It seemed to be surrounded by endless worlds, and billions of spacetimes had been opened and then destroyed. The scene was incomparably mysterious and strange. Standing in front of the chaos divine mountain, even though Ling Zhao and the other three had broken through to the Emperor-to-be realm, they still felt as insignificant as ants. They walked toward the Chaos Divine Mountain. This is not a mountain, but a gigantic chaotic corpse. Ling Zhao's body trembled, and his eyes flashed with disbelief. When he arrived in front of the Chaos Divine Mountain, he realized that it was incomparably huge. It was unknown how many billions of miles it was, but it was comparable to the Chaos Tree that Ling Zhao had seen before. It was boundless and majestic. Who would have thought that it would be a gigantic corpse? Who knew what kind of powerhouse had left it behind? The reason it was called a corpse was because it had no aura of life. Instead, it emitted a decaying aura of death, as if it had been dead for countless years. The corpse had turned into a mountain and remained in this strange space forever. Di Hongwan, Li Wuji, and Li Wushuang were all shaken, and their eyes were filled with incomparable horror. Even the ancient gods, who were the most physically powerful in the eternal immortal domains, were no more than 1,000,000 feet tall when they reached adulthood. Compared to this gigantic corpse, they were as small as dust in front of a divine dragon. As far as they could remember, they had never heard of anyone in the eternal immortal domains who had such a terrifying body. Although many celestial kings, quasi-celestial emperors, and even celestial emperors could use the lawful embodiment of heaven and earth to transform their bodies into millions of miles tall, that was only through divine abilities. After they died, their bodies would only return to their original state. It was impossible for them to maintain such a huge body. If I'm not mistaken, this corpse should belong to that mysterious celestial emperor. I just don't know how terrifying his strength is with such a huge body, and who can kill him. Ling Zhao sighed softly as his eyes flickered with light. No matter what, such a powerful celestial emperor must have left behind an earth-shattering legacy. It must be incomparably terrifying and powerful. We can't let it fall into Ning Shukong's hands. Li Wuji and Li Wushuang exchanged a look and spoke slowly. Ling Zhao and the others immediately soared into the air and flew toward the giant corpse's head. If this mysterious celestial emperor had left behind an inheritance, it must have been at the head. They soared into the sky, surrounded by surging chaotic mist and howling astral winds that seemed capable of tearing their bodies apart. That kind of violent energy was incomparably terrifying. Even if an immortal king expert was here, his physical body and primordial spirit might be directly torn apart, and his soul would be completely scattered. Fortunately, they had all broken through to the quasi-celestial emperor realm. Otherwise, they wouldn't have been able to break through the chaotic mist and astral winds. This made them even more expectant. After being dead for so many years, the corpse's aura was already so terrifying. This celestial emperor couldn't have been a nobody. He must have been a supreme figure in the eternal immortal domain. The giant corpse was billions of miles tall. Ling Xiao, Di Hongluan, and the others flew for a long time before they finally arrived at the head. When they saw the head, they were stunned. Amidst the endless fog of chaos, a great sword was stabbed between the eyebrows of the head. Blood flowed down the great sword, but at this moment, the sword had already turned pitch black. Even so, one could still feel the terrifying baleful aura emanating from the head. This terrifying celestial emperor had been killed by a sword piercing between the eyebrows. That head exuded endless chaotic light, like a vast and resplendent sun, vast and boundless. Although the corpse's eyes were tightly shut, Ling Xiao and the others could still feel the overwhelming murderous aura and unwillingness emanating from the corpse. It was as if they could see the unparalleled battle from countless years ago through time and space. He wondered what kind of person the owner of that huge sword was. Ling Xiao, Di Hongluan, and the others were shocked. Their expressions were grave, and they became even more cautious. At this moment, Ling Xiao's eyes flashed. He suddenly felt the faint sounds of fighting coming from the head in front of him. Soon, Di Hongluan, Li Wuji, Li Wushuang, and the others also sensed it. They all wore strange expressions. They immediately thought of Ning Shukong and the others. After all, Ning Shukong and the others had disappeared after entering the black stone door. It was most likely that they were searching for the celestial emperor's inheritance in the corpse. However, there were sounds of fighting. Could it be that there was some danger in the corpse? Di Hongluan, Li Wuji, and Li Wushuang couldn't help but look at Ling Xiao, waiting for him to make a decision. No matter what, we have to go in and take a look. Ling Xiao pondered for a moment, then said decisively. Then, a bright light rose around him, and he instantly turned into a stream of light. He entered the head through the ear hole of the giant head. Di Hongluan, Li Wuji, and Li Wushuang naturally followed closely behind. Their speed was extremely fast as they rushed in the direction of the sound of the battle. Even the ear holes in their heads were like vast and boundless continents, incomparably vast. However, only the twisting ear wall could let them feel that they were flying inside the giant's body. The sound of fighting ahead became clearer and clearer. At the same time, Ling Xiao felt an extremely dense demonic qi rushing toward him. It contained monstrous murderous qi and murderous fluctuations, as if it would destroy all life. It was extremely terrifying. At this moment, Ning Shukong, by Qingshuang, by Qingxue, and the others led the celestial kings of the Truth Celestial Court and escaped in a sorry state. Behind them was a mummy shrouded in dark murderous qi. Its eyes were extremely red and emotionless. It was filled with endless murderous qi and cruelty. It could kill a celestial king with a casual swipe of its hand. Then, it stuffed the celestial king into its mouth and swallowed him completely. Along the way, it had swallowed countless celestial kings. It could be seen from the terrified expressions of Ning Shukong and the others that they were in an extremely sorry state. They were no match for the mummy at all. Chapter 3482. A black lightning bolt bloomed in the void. The mummy, which was covered in endless demonic light, had a murderous aura around it. It clawed at the air. The claw light was extremely sharp. It looked very shriveled, but it contained endless murderous aura that made one's heart tremble. It clawed at Ning Shukong. Ning Shukong's body shook. He suddenly punched out. Blazing immortal light gushed out and collided with the black mummy. Boom! The void shook violently. Endless demonic light and immortal light exploded. Ning Shukong was directly sent flying back. As for the dried corpse, it staggered back a few steps. But it immediately steadied itself and grabbed at Ning Shukong again. In just a moment, Ning Shukong and the others slowed down a lot. Then, a sound like a tide came. Endless demonic light filled the air, and murderous aura rose. An extremely dense dark aura spread out. Behind Ning Shukong and the others, 9 mummies covered in demonic light appeared. Each of them had a terrifying aura. They pounced across the sky and kept killing the immortal kings of the Truth Celestial Court. Those immortal kings didn't have the slightest ability to resist. They were all torn apart like vegetables. Blood splattered everywhere. They were directly killed by the mummies. Then they were stuffed into their mouths and swallowed. In the blink of an eye, the last 100 immortal kings were all killed. Only Ning Shukong, Bai Qingshuang, Bai Qingxue, and the young man in a gray robe with an ancient sword on his back were left. At the same time, Ning Shukong also saw Ling Xiao, Di Hongwan, and the others. He couldn't help but be surprised. He hurriedly shouted, "Taoist Ling Xiao, let's attack together and kill all 10 mummies. They are the guardians of the great emperor's inheritance. After killing them, we can get the inheritance of this immortal emperor. Please help me." Damn it. Di Hongwan's expression changed. She found that after Ning Shukong yelled, the 10 extremely powerful mummies were also alerted. Immediately, 4 or 5 mummies radiated monstrous evil qi and demonic light. They charged toward Ling Xiao, Di Hongwan, and the others. Ning Shukong had evil intentions. He wanted to use Ling Xiao's power to deal with these mummies, but he was also afraid that Ling Xiao would not help them. Therefore, he directly used his sound wave theurgy to attract a few mummies to attack Ling Xiao and Di Hongwan. The consequence of this was that even if Ling Xiao and the others were unwilling to save them, there was no way they could escape. They had to deal with the mummies in front of them first to share the burden. Reckless fool. Ling Xiao looked indifferent and calm. He glanced at Ning Shukong in the distance, his eyes full of cold, killing intent. How could he not see through Ning Shukong's intentions? However, Ling Xiao didn't have the time to deal with him now. He had to deal with the powerful corpses in front of him first before settling the score with Ning Shukong. Ling Xiao found that the mummies in front of him looked delirious at this moment. They were shrouded in demonic light and evil qi like puppets. He didn't know whether they were dead or alive, nor did they have any emotions. However, their cultivation should have reached the peak of the quasi-immortal emperor realm when they were alive. Therefore, the 10 mummies at the peak of the quasi-immortal emperor realm could erupt with such terrifying and powerful combat strength. They made Ning Shukong and the others extremely embarrassed. Even the celestial kings of the Truth Celestial Court were slaughtered. After devouring those celestial kings, the mummies in front of him became more and more powerful. Their originally shriveled bodies became a little plump at this moment, and their murderous qi became more and more terrifying. However, Ling Xiao heard a key word from Ning Shukong's mouth. The 10 mummies in front of him were the guardians of this powerful and ancient celestial emperor. In this case, his guess was right. The inheritance of this celestial emperor should be not far ahead. Countless thoughts flashed through Ling Xiao's mind, but his attack was not weak at all. The sky-swallowing sword was incomparably sharp, and it bloomed with dazzling light. In an instant, it appeared in his palm. He slashed down a sword light from the sky. The vast and bright power of light gushed out as if it was going to destroy all darkness and evil. This was the great light celestial sword. The sword qi swept across the void in all directions. It was incomparably sharp and terrifying at the same time. Clang! Sparks flew in all directions. The divine power was unparalleled. What Ling Xiao didn't expect was that when the great light celestial sword slashed on the mummy's arm, it actually made a sound of metal clashing. It didn't cut off the mummy's arm, but only left a white mark on it. The murderous qi and evil qi in the mummy's eyes became more and more intense. Its withered and sharp claws seemed to be able to tear the void apart as it suddenly clawed at Ling Xiao. Di Hongwan, Crown Prince Li Wuji, and Second Prince Li Wushuang were also facing a mummy with demonic qi. They immediately fell into a bitter battle. The mummy's strength was too terrifying. They were even stronger than those dark quasi-immortal emperors. Ling Xiao and Di Hongwan could still resist, but Li Wuji and Li Wushuang were weaker. They immediately fell into a disadvantageous position and could only bitterly hold on. Ning Shukong and the others were also fighting the mummies in front of them at this moment. However, by using half of the mummies to deal with Ling Xiao and Di Hongwan, the pressure on them was greatly reduced. He glanced at Ling Xiao and the others with a cold smile. His attacks were extremely sharp, and he kept fighting the mummies in front of him. He was the first to find this place, and he had already seen the ancient door where the immortal emperor's inheritance was located. However, before he could push open the door, the 10 mummies shrouded in devil chi rushed towards them, as if they wanted to kill them completely. The 10 mummies were wearing the same clothes. It was obvious that they were the guardians of the celestial emperor's inheritance. However, they were so powerful that even Ning Shukong couldn't deal with them. Even though the celestial kings he brought from the Truth Celestial Court fought desperately and almost all of them were killed and paid such a huge price, they only slightly delayed the mummies' pursuit. What was worse was that after the mummies devoured the celestial kings, their strength became stronger and more terrifying. Originally, their strength was only equivalent to the early stage of the quasi-immortal emperor realm, but they were invulnerable. However, after devouring a large number of celestial kings, their cultivation soared to an extremely terrifying level, comparable to the peak of the quasi-immortal emperor realm. Rumble. An ancient sword appeared in Ning Shukong's palm. He, Bai Qingxuang, and Bai Qingxue seemed to have formed an extremely mysterious tripartite chaos sword formation. They formed the power of heaven, earth, and man. The sword light was unparalleled. In an instant, thousands of incomparably sharp sword lights were released, constantly falling on the mummies. However, the bodies of the mummies were too strong. Ning Shukong even suspected that their bodies were cast with extreme metal materials. Otherwise, it would be impossible for them to fight until now without any injuries. The gray-robed young man with the ancient sword on his back unsheathed the ancient sword on his back. In an instant, hundreds of millions of sword lights appeared in the void. Like a large umbrella, they gathered together at the same time. They were extremely sharp and kept slashing at the mummies in front of them. The battle was extremely fierce. However, until now, none of them had discovered the weakness of the mummies. They only knew that the evil chi and devil light emitted by the mummies were extremely similar to the darkness origin of the dark creatures. They could corrode the human body and erode the human mind, turning people into mummies. Rumble. Ling Xiao kept colliding with the 2 mummies in front of him. His extremely strong body seemed to be able to break everything. Every punch was like hundreds of millions of worlds exploding at the same time. It was also like the power of hundreds of millions of immemorial divine mountains. The 2 mummies in front of him were constantly pushed back. However, the 2 mummies didn't have the slightest injury on their bodies. After being pushed back by Ling Xiao, they rushed towards Ling Xiao without fear of death. Even Ling Xiao felt that it was extremely troublesome. He didn't know how to kill the mummies in front of him. At this moment, the space between Ling Xiao's eyebrows shone brightly. A crystal-clear branch of the Tree of Worlds stretched out from it and instantly pierced towards one of the mummies in front of him. However, what surprised Ling Xiao was that the branch of the Tree of World, which had always been successful, could even penetrate the bodies of the Dark Prince and the Dark Quasi-Immortal Emperor. However, when it pierced the mummies in front of him, it emitted a sound of metal clashing. Sparks flew in all directions. It couldn't pierce the mummies' bodies at all. Don't these mummies have any weaknesses? Ling Xiao frowned and kept thinking. As he collided with the mummies in front of him and fought fiercely, he pondered and tried to find the weaknesses of these mummies in front of him. Their bodies seem to be wrapped in some kind of metal or have been specially refined. That's why their bodies are so strong. Even though my sky-devouring sword is extremely sharp, it can't cut through their bodies. Perhaps only a real eternal emperor weapon can cut through their bodies and kill them. However, this doesn't mean that they don't have any weaknesses. Ling Xiao's eyes flickered as he thought to himself. The sky-devouring sword in his palm was surging with sword chi. It was extremely fierce, as if it could cut through hundreds of millions of voids. It was extremely powerful. Ling Xiao suddenly realized that every time the sky-devouring sword attacked the mummies didn't resist at all. However, every time the sky-devouring sword approached the mummy's glabella, they would directly slap it away. The mummy's glabella is their weakness. In other words, their primordial spirits are their weakness. Ling Zhao's eyes flickered and he suddenly had a guess. Rumble. Sword chi surged around him and the extremely sharp sword light was like a river flowing backwards, continuously slashing at the mummies in front of him. At the same time, the immortal light around him was dazzling. In an instant, many figures appeared in the sky. It was as if there were hundreds of millions of Ling Zhao's figures in the sky. Each of them had an extremely strong aura, making it impossible to distinguish their real bodies. Then, hundreds of millions of sword lights and hundreds of millions of Ling Zhao's figures attacked the mummies in front of him at the same time. Rumble. The mummies shook violently. In an instant, they were slashed thousands of times and countless white marks appeared on their bodies. There were even a few sword lights that had approached the mummy's glabella. However, they were directly smashed by the mummy's claws. At this moment, in the void, most of Ling Zhao's afterimages were torn apart by the mummies. However, Ling Zhao's real body silently appeared behind the mummy in an instant. Then he abruptly locked both of its hands. At the same time, the sky-devouring sword turned into an extremely sharp sword light and instantly pierced through the mummy's glabella. Boom! A black sun seemed to explode from the mummy's glabella, causing the mummies' heads to explode with a loud bang. Then the mummies fell to the ground and died. There were no more auras and they became extremely cold corpses. The mummy's weakness is between their eyebrows. Ling Xiao transmitted his voice to Di Hongwan, Li Wuji, and Li Wushuang. At the same time, they attacked the remaining mummies. Di Hongwan, Li Wuji, and Li Wushuang were originally complaining incessantly. The mummies in front of them were too difficult to deal with. Moreover, they were invulnerable and couldn't be destroyed at all. Now that they heard Ling Zhao's voice transmission, their spirits were greatly lifted. They instantly unleashed their most powerful attacks and continuously attacked the mummy's glabella. Although the mummies were powerful, they didn't have any intelligence. After knowing their weakness, they were easily dealt with. With Ling Zhao's help, the 5 mummies were quickly killed by Di Hongwan and the others, becoming 5 extremely cold corpses. Ling Zhao's eyes flashed. With a wave of his sleeve, he immediately kept the 5 mummies. He felt that the 5 mummies weren't simple. Perhaps he could take them back and study them carefully. At the same time, Ning Shukong's face turned extremely ugly. He didn't expect Ling Xiao, Di Hongwan, and the others to kill the 5 mummies so easily. Could it be that they found the mummy's weakness? Ning Shukong's body trembled. However, when he wanted to look at the mummies, he found that they had disappeared. Ling Xiao had put them away. He was so angry that he almost vomited blood. At that moment, Ning Shukong's distraction allowed the mummies to find a loophole in the battle matrix. Their sharp claws tore the battle matrix apart right away. They then extended their claws and pierced through Bai Qingshue's chest, digging out her heart. They then stuffed it into their mouths and chewed on it. What? Ning Shukong's body trembled, and his face changed drastically. Sister! Bai Qingshuang was also shaking. She looked very anxious as she hurried to yell. However, Bai Qingshue's heart was dug out, and the mummies pounced on her at the same time. She was unable to resist at all. She was torn to shreds by the mummies and swallowed into their stomachs. Bai Qingshuang's face instantly turned pale. Her eyes were filled with anger and despair. At this moment, after killing Bai Qingxue, the mummies pounced on Ning Shukong at the same time. Damn it! Ning Shukong's face changed drastically. With his current cultivation, he definitely couldn't resist the simultaneous attack of the mummies. Moreover, he didn't want to use all his trump cards. Seeing that Ling Xiao and the others had already killed the corpses, his heart was filled with jealousy and unwillingness. If the immortal emperor's inheritance fell into the hands of Ling Xiao and the others, then his plan and the deaths of countless people in the Truth Celestial Court would become a joke. Ning Shukong gritted his teeth. His eyes flashed with a trace of ruthlessness. Mysterious light bloomed around him, as if the void was fluctuating. He and Bai Qingshuang, who was in a daze, suddenly switched places in an instant. Then, without looking back, he used the greater teleportation technique and sped towards the location of the immortal emperor's inheritance. At this moment, Bai Qingxuang was completely stunned. She had never thought that the crown prince she had always adored, the man she admired the most, would not only abandon her and run away alone, he even used the void transference ability to send her into the mouths of those dried corpses. Why did this happen? She was filled with many questions, but no one could answer her at this moment. Blood filled the air. Her body was instantly pierced by the mummy's sharp claws. Then her whole body was torn apart. The mummies lay on Bai Qingxuang's body and began to chew and devour. In an instant, Bai Qingxuang was completely devoured. Even Ling Xiao and Di Hongwan could not save her in time. Di Hongwan was so angry that she trembled. Her eyes were filled with cold killing intent. She said coldly, "Damn Ning Shukong. He is so despicable and shameless. When I see him, I will cut him into pieces so that he will never be reincarnated." Di Hongwan's voice was filled with bone-deep killing intent. Although she was a little eccentric, she was still a kind girl at heart. But now, even she was enraged by Ning Shukong. Whether it was Ning Shukong's repaying kindness with enmity or his selfishness, she saw the most sinister side of people's hearts. At this moment, Ling Zhao's body flashed. The sky-devouring sword was extremely sharp. It kept attacking the remaining mummies. After learning about the weaknesses of the mummies, Ling Zhao's speed in killing them became much faster. He effortlessly killed a few dried corpses. Then, a sharp sword light fell from the sky and pierced through the last mummy. It killed it and saved the gray-robed young man with an ancient sword on his back. The gray-robed young man was in a daze. He was completely stunned. He did not expect that the two sisters, Bai Qingxuang and Bai Qingxue, who were so cute and loyal to Ning Shukong, would die in the hands of Ning Shukong. Or rather, they died because of Ning Shukong. His hand unconsciously tightened on the hilt of his sword. A wisp of blood-red killing intent filled his eyes. "If you trust me, I will take Ning Shukong's life," the gray-robed young man said hoarsely. But there was deep hatred in his voice. Ling Xiao was non-committal, while the gray-robed young man walked up silently and picked up a silver-white bracelet in the middle of the corpses. That silver-white bracelet was now full of cracks, as if it would shatter with a single touch. This was a gift that the gray-robed young man gave to Bai Qingxuang in the name of Ning Shukong. It also represented his deep love for her. He still remembered the brilliance in Bai Qingxuang's eyes and the bitterness in his heart. The bracelet was also a defensive magic treasure. However, under the powerful attacks of the mummies, it broke in an instant. It could not save Bai Qingxuang's life. And it was all because of Ning Shukong. The gray-robed young man jumped up and flew toward the immortal emperor's inheritance. "Let's go!" Ling Zhao's eyes were also incomparably cold, containing a monstrous killing intent. He closely followed the figure of the gray-robed young man as he rushed forward. The immortal emperor's corpse was so huge that they flew for hundreds of millions of miles before they finally got close to the immortal emperor's inheritance. Two huge ancient stone doors appeared in front of them. They seemed to separate heaven and earth, and they exuded a strange black demonic chi. As for the two ancient stone doors, they had already been pushed open by someone, revealing a small gap. One could see that a bright light was gushing out from within. "The immortal emperor's inheritance is here," the gray-robed young man said hoarsely. Then he turned into a flowing light and flew into the stone doors. Ling Xiao and Di Hongwan looked at each other and also walked to the stone door. Then, the two of them exerted force at the same time and slowly pushed the two ancient and huge stone doors open. Rumble! Dazzling lightning flashed and chaotic light filled the air. It was as if they had come to a fairyland. Divine light gushed out and propitious chi rose. An ancient and mysterious palace appeared in front of them. They could see a primordial spirit floating in the palace. It exuded a mysterious and ancient aura, and it was filled with the fluctuations of the eternal law of heaven. Ling Zhao's eyes flashed. He realized that the primordial spirit was very similar to the immortal emperor's corpse he had seen outside. Ning Shukong was sitting cross-legged below the primordial spirit. He was surrounded by bright immortal light, as if he was receiving some kind of inheritance. His face was full of intoxication. When he saw Ling Xiao, Di Hongwan, Li Wuji, and Li Wushuang appear, Ning Shukong smiled proudly. You're too late. I'll gladly accept the Primordial Chaos Immortal Emperor's inheritance. Once I merge with the Primordial Chaos Immortal Emperor's primordial spirit and receive all of his inheritance, I will become the next Primordial Chaos Immortal Emperor and rule the eternal immortal realm. Don't even think about taking the inheritance from me. Do you see the boundary array around me? These barriers were set up by immortal emperors. Even immortal emperors wouldn't be able to break them easily. So the only thing you can do now is run. Run as far as you can. Otherwise, when I come out of seclusion, the first people I'll kill will be you. Ha! Ning Shukong laughed wildly. Damn it. Ning Shukong, you think you can get the immortal emperor's inheritance? You deserve to die 1,000 times over. Di Hongwan was furious. The radiant immortal sword in her hand shone with dazzling light, and a beam of sword chi slashed at Ning Shukong. Ning Shukong's expression didn't change, but a trace of mockery appeared on his face. When the sword chi came within 3 feet of Ning Shukong, it was blocked by an invisible boundary array. The barrier emitted ripples like water, easily dispersing Di Hongwan's furious attack. No wonder Ning Shukong is so arrogant. There really is an immortal emperor's boundary array around him. Are we really going to watch that damned bastard Ning Shukong steal the immortal emperor's inheritance? At that instant, Li Wuji and Li Wushuang's faces turned unpleasant. Chapter 3483. Ning Shukong sat cross-legged in the chaotic void. Above his head, a mysterious and ancient primordial spirit was shining with dazzling light. It seemed to be carrying out some kind of inheritance. It kept merging into Ning Shukong's body, making his aura stronger and stronger. Di Hongwan and the others' expressions were ugly. They hadn't expected the Primordial Chaos Immortal Emperor's inheritance to fall into Ning Shukong's hands. The Primordial Chaos Immortal Emperor was a name that was both foreign and familiar to the eternal immortal domains. The Primordial Chaos Immortal Emperor had existed before the Antiquity Age. It was said that during the Desolation Age of the eternal immortal domains, the Primordial Chaos Immortal Emperor had proven himself to be an immortal emperor with astounding talent. He had created the cultivation path of the eternal immortal domains, and was known as the immortal ancestor by countless beings in the eternal immortal domains. It was said that the Primordial Chaos Immortal Emperor was the only person in the eternal immortal domains who had transcended the immortal emperor realm and reached that mysterious realm. When Enai Tsangtian had reached the pinnacle of the immortal emperor realm, he had said that he was inferior to the Primordial Chaos Immortal Emperor. Who would have thought that such a supreme being, the immortal ancestor, would perish here? How had the Primordial Chaos Immortal Emperor perished here? The minds of Ling Xiao and the others were filled with doubts. Something's not right. There's something wrong with him. It's not as simple as just inheriting the Primordial Chaos Immortal Emperor's inheritance. Ling Xiao's eyes flashed, and he couldn't help but exclaim softly. His eyes shone brightly and the light of chaos rose. It was as if he could see through the void and see the ancient primordial spirit. It was as if it had its own consciousness and was gradually awakening. At first, it seemed to be just a remnant soul, passing on the Primordial Chaos Immortal Emperor's inheritance to Ning Shukong. But now, a powerful spiritual fluctuation was gradually awakening within the primordial spirit, and its aura was growing stronger by the moment. Rumble! The powerful and ancient soul suddenly smiled strangely before turning into a streak of dazzling light. It fused into Ning Shukong's sea of consciousness in a split second. A monstrous demonic qi surged, enveloping the void and expelling all immortal qi. The place was filled with demonic qi, as if it had descended from Azura hell. What's going on? Di Hongwan, Li Wuji, and Li Wushuang shuddered, their eyes filled with disbelief. Get lost! Dazzling immortal light suddenly bloomed around Ning Shukong. Auspicious qi rose, and a mysterious and ancient qi bloomed between his eyebrows. He actually has an eternal emperor weapon protecting him? Unfortunately, it was only a mark. Brat, it's better for you to obediently let me devour your body. This is your supreme honor. A probing voice rang out, causing the void in all directions to vibrate violently. The black primordial spirit revealed a twisted and cruel face. It exuded a monstrous demonic aura and baleful aura. It looked extremely terrifying. When the sword light from the sword of truth hit the soul, it only made the black soul tremble slightly. It did not cause any damage to the black soul at all. Then, the black primordial spirit broke through the restriction formation in Ning Shukong's mind and pounced on his primordial spirit. Damn it! Who are you? I don't want to die, I don't want to die. Ning Shukong's eyes were full of fear, and he could not help but cry out. At the same time, a chaotic light in his body trembled slightly, as if it was about to break free from his body and move out. It's the legendary immortal void body? It seems that I'm quite lucky. Brat, this way, you won't be able to escape. The primordial spirit with monstrous demonic aura pointed in the air. Streaks of black light, like a huge net, directly enveloped Ning Shukong's primordial spirit and then constantly pulled it toward the primordial spirit of darkness. The primordial spirit with monstrous demonic aura was like an evil dragon. Ning Shukong's primordial spirit was like a defenseless chick in front of him. His eyes were full of incomparable horror. Ling Xiao, save me, save me. As long as you save me, I'll give you the inheritance of the immortal emperor, all of it. Ning Shukong suddenly shouted crazily, his eyes full of incomparable horror and fear. However, Ling Xiao looked indifferent and did not show any signs of wanting to help. Not to mention that Ling Xiao did not want to save Ning Shukong at all, even if he wanted to at this moment, it was beyond his power. After all, the boundary around Ning Shukong was too powerful. Even if Ling Xiao could break it, it would take a lot of time. After such a long time, Ning Shukong had long been swallowed up without leaving even a trace. Only an unwilling, painful, desperate, and angry roar could be heard, and then it suddenly stopped. Ning Shukong's primordial spirit was directly swallowed by the primordial spirit of darkness. Boom! The surrounding void shook as if there was an ancient and vast demonic light rising up, annihilating everything in the surrounding void. Originally, Ning Shukong's body was surrounded by immortal qi and bright, auspicious light. However, at this moment he was instantly enveloped by demonic aura. His entire body became monstrous like a peerless demon, exuding an aura fluctuation that made one's heart tremble. He suddenly opened his eyes, and a bloody and cruel light shot out from his eyes, causing the chaotic void in front of him to tremble violently. The invisible boundary that originally enveloped Ning Shukong also shattered with a loud bang. How many years has it been? How many years has it been? I can finally see the light of day again. Ning Shukong let out a wild laugh, causing the surrounding void to rumble as if billions of thunderbolts had exploded at the same time. Although the voice came from Ning Shukong's mouth, it didn't come from Ning Shukong himself. Ling Xiao, Di Hongluan, and the others all knew that Ning Shukong had been completely possessed by the primordial spirit of darkness. Their eyes were filled with extreme vigilance, and their battle intent surged. They were ready to attack at any time. After all, they saw with their own eyes that the strange primordial spirit of darkness had swallowed Ning Shukong's primordial spirit. Even the mark left by the sword of truth in Ning Shukong's primordial spirit couldn't do anything to it, which showed how terrifying and powerful the primordial spirit of darkness was. At the same time, they were also filled with questions. Why would the primordial spirit of the Chaos Ancient Immortal Emperor have such a strange primordial spirit? What kind of evil demon had taken over the place of inheritance of the Chaos Ancient Immortal Emperor? At this moment, Ning Shukong suddenly turned around. His scarlet eyes suddenly stared at Ling Xiao, Ti Honglun, Li Wuji, and Li Wushuang, filled with cold, murderous intent. You can see through it? I've been reborn. Now, I'll give you two choices: kneel down and submit to me, or die. Ning Shukong said coldly. Ling Xiao, Di Hongluan, and the others all trembled when Ning Shukong stared at them. They felt a chill run down their spines, as if they had been seen through by Ning Shukong. They felt that Ning Shukong was extremely dangerous. Ling Zhao's eyes were filled with a grave expression. He felt that Ning Shukong was even more dangerous than the Prince of Darkness. Senior, this is the place of inheritance of the Chaos Ancient Immortal Emperor. Are you the Chaos Ancient Immortal Emperor? Ling Zhao's eyes flashed as he said slowly. Chaos Ancient Immortal Emperor? What's that? Ning Shukong's eyes flashed with disdain. He then sneered and said, Boy, don't waste your energy. If you want to know my background, I'll tell you as long as you kneel down and submit to me. How about that? Stop pretending. You're just a remnant soul. Even if you're the Chaos Ancient Immortal Emperor, I'm not afraid of you. Go to hell. Di Hongwan's eyes flashed coldly, and her face was filled with killing intent. The radiant immortal sword appeared in her hand, swallowing and spitting out endless radiant power. She suddenly soared into the sky and slashed at Ning Shukong. It was as if billions of thunderbolts exploded above the chaotic void at the same time. Although Di Hongwan had a fiery temper, she was not careless at all. She immediately displayed the radiant immortal emperor's supreme emperor technique. The sword bloomed in the void like an immortal sun emitting endless light. Every ray of light was a ray of radiant sword chi. The dense light sword chi condensed together, sharp to the extreme, and also extremely bright to the extreme. Di Hongwan was extremely confident in this sword. Even the dark quasi-immortal emperors would be severely injured by it. Child's play. Little girl, since you don't want to submit to me, you can go to hell. Ning Shukong laughed cruelly. His eyes were filled with killing intent, and he slashed out with his claw. The sharp claw radiance seemed to be able to tear the void apart. At the same time, it contained endless blood-red light. It covered the sky like a blood-red sun. In an instant, it smashed the radiant sword chi all over the sky into powder. Then, it collided with the radiant immortal sword. Di Hongwan's body shook violently. She only felt an unparalleled divine power attacking her. The radiant immortal sword buzzed violently. Her arm went numb, and the radiant immortal sword flew out of her hand. Ning Shukong's attack was extremely ruthless. His momentum did not decrease. Like a strange figure, he stretched out his claw and grabbed at Di Hongwan's heart. It's the same aura as those mummies. Could it be that he created those mummies? Divine light flashed in Ling Zhao's eyes. He keenly sensed that Ning Shukong's aura and the sharp and withered claw in front of him were very similar to those mummies. Seeing that Di Hongwan was in danger, Ling Zhao's eyes flashed. He stepped on the void and the sky-devouring sword released a dazzling sword light. He slashed down at Ning Shukong. Kaboom! Ling Zhao's sky-devouring sword collided with Ning Shukong's sharp claw. In an instant, sparks flew in all directions and thunder rose. An unparalleled divine power attacked. Ling Zhao's body shook violently, and his qi and blood surged. However, Ning Shukong's figure was also blocked by Ling Xiao. Di Hongwan was able to move away and avoid this fatal attack. He's too strong. Di Hongwan's face was extremely pale. Her eyes were filled with seriousness and fear as she spoke slowly to Ling Xiao. Chapter 3484. Di Hongwan was the little princess of the Radiance Immortal Court. She had the supreme Radiance body. After breaking through to the quasi-immortal emperor realm, she was not even afraid of peak quasi-immortal emperors. However, when she faced Ning Shukong just now, she actually felt as if she was facing a peerlessly powerful immortal emperor, making her feel as insignificant as an ant. She was even suppressed by his aura and almost couldn't resist. It was too terrifying. Although she did not know the origin of the strange primordial spirit, Di Hongwan knew that she was no match for Ning Shukong. Boy, you're quite interesting. Ning Shukong's eyes flashed with a trace of surprise. He looked at Ling Xiao carefully and said with a sinister smile, Senior, we have no enmity with you. Can you let us go? Of course, we will definitely not reveal the slightest bit about Senior. Ling Xiao cupped his fist and said calmly to Ning Shukong, Do you think I'll let you go? Ning Shukong said with a hint of mockery in his eyes. Can't I? Ling Xiao asked faintly, as if he was talking to himself. If that's the case, I'll have to kill you and then go out. Ling Xiao said calmly and then attacked instantly. Rumble. Boundless chaotic light gathered from all directions. Ling Xiao's entire body was emitting an ancient and mysterious aura. With the sky-devouring sword in hand, he became extremely fierce. He slashed at Ning Shukong with his sword. The sky-devouring sword in his hand seemed to have turned into the origin of all things. It contained a strange scene of endless worlds being born and destroyed. It was as if in an instant, the sword had opened the gate of heaven and created an endless chaotic world. It was as if in an instant, the sword had destroyed the world and shattered the endless universe. This was the most powerful forbidden technique of the Origin Immortal Emperor. It was incomparably fierce. After Ling Xiao broke through to the quasi-immortal Emperor realm, he finally unleashed his incomparably powerful power. Even Ning Shukong could not help but feel a sense of amazement when faced with this sword. The void behind Ning Shukong suddenly shattered, and he instantly disappeared from where he was, dodging the sure-kill attack of the Ling Xiao Origin 3 swords. However, Ling Xiao's Origin sword light had already locked onto Ning Shukong's chi. Even though his speed was unparalleled, the Origin sword light still followed him like a shadow. It directly broke through the void and slashed toward Ning Shukong. Boom! The void trembled. Ning Shukong threw out a punch. His shriveled palms suddenly became full. Blood and black light gathered together, making this punch seem to be supported by the power of billions of worlds. It was ancient and vast, and at the same time, there was a strange fluctuation of aura. In an instant, it collided with Ling Xiao's sky-swallowing sword. The sword chi was annihilated in an instant. The void in all directions shook violently at the same time. Ling Xiao and Ning Shukong both flew backward at the same time. Very strong indeed. Ling Xiao muttered to himself. His eyes were filled with a strong fighting spirit. Previously, he had used the Tree of World to devour the Prince of Darkness and the 9 dark quasi-immortal emperors. This allowed his cultivation to break through to the 3rd heaven of the quasi-immortal emperor realm. It could be said that his strength had skyrocketed. However, facing Ning Shukong in front of him, Ling Xiao still felt a strong pressure and danger. However, this also made his fighting spirit stronger. His chi and blood seemed to be completely boiling. Endless immortal light floated, and various mysterious images appeared, making Ling Xiao's aura extremely terrifying in an instant. Kill! Ling Xiao suddenly shouted. He stepped on the chaotic void. Every step he took seemed to be stepping on the node of the eternal heavenly way. His whole body exuded a mysterious and powerful precept domain. Boundless chaotic light surged toward him, and an ancient world tree appeared behind him, piercing through the heavens and the earth. As Ling Xiao threw out a punch, the branches of the Tree of Worlds seemed to be able to penetrate everything. They flew toward Ning Shukong in the air. You have merged with a Tree of World? No wonder you have the confidence to fight with me. However, so what if you have a Tree of World? You will still die. I have changed my mind. I will refine you into my puppet. You will never be reincarnated. A hint of surprise appeared in Ning Shukong's eyes, but he still sneered. Kill! Ning Shukong attacked Ling Xiao. His sharp claws were as strong and sharp as an eternal emperor weapon. They constantly collided with Ling Xiao's sky-devouring sword. Sparks flew and divine light surged. The branches of the Tree of World were crystal clear. They could penetrate everything, but they could not penetrate Ning Shukong's body. They were all repelled by Ning Shukong's withered and sharp claws. However, this was not Ling Xiao's intention. Under his control, the branches of the Tree of World were extremely sharp. In an instant, they covered the sky and covered the earth. Each branch could penetrate the void. Most of the power was aimed at the center of Ning Shukong's eyebrows. The sky-devouring sword in his hand instantly slashed out 10,000 rays of sword chi. They were like intertwined divine chains of order. They collided with Ning Shukong's sharp claws, causing the surrounding void to tremble violently and emit a roaring explosion. Brat, you actually managed to see through my weakness? However, do you really think that I can be compared to those puppets? Ning Shukong's eyes flashed as he sneered. Black scales grew out from his glabella in an instant. They intertwined with each other and slashed out a sharp blade light. It collided with the branches of the Tree of World. Even though the branches of the Tree of World were extremely sharp and could occasionally break through the layers of obstacles and pierce Ning Shukong's glabella, they still emitted the sound of metal colliding with each other. Sparks flew in all directions. They could not penetrate Ning Shukong's glabella at all. This is bad. After the strange primordial spirit of darkness took over Ning Shukong, it made him so powerful. His entire body is exactly the same as those monsters before. It is like an iron wall without any flaws. I'm afraid that Ling Xiao will not be able to defeat him. Crown Prince Li Wuji's eyes were filled with worry as he spoke slowly. At this moment, Di Hongluan, Li Wuji, and Li Wushuang had all retreated far away. They could feel the terrifying power that erupted from the battle between Ling Xiao and Ning Shukong. It was not that they did not want to help, but that they could not interfere in a battle of this level at all. If they rushed forward rashly, they would only be a burden to Ling Xiao. Therefore, although they were extremely worried, there was nothing that they could do. I believe in Ling Xiao. He will definitely win in the end. Di Hongluan looked at Ling Xiao. She did not know why, but a strong surge of confidence emerged in her heart. Her intuition told her that Ling Xiao still had some trump cards that he had not used yet. Although Ning Shukong was powerful, it was not impossible for Ling Xiao to defeat him. Kaboom! Above the ancient chaotic palace, chaotic light filled the air and thunder surged. Ling Xiao and Ning Shukong were engaged in an extremely fierce battle. Ling Xiao held the sky-devouring sword and at the same time, unleashing the supreme power of the Tree of World. Rays of sword light and crystal-clear branches of the Tree of World constantly pierced towards Ning Shukong. Ning Shukong's body was as indestructible as an eternal emperor weapon. Moreover, his pair of sharp claws could tear everything apart. Any emperor divine skill or powerful attack would be torn apart by his claws. Ling Xiao and Ning Shukong were like two dazzling balls of light in the void. Every time they collided, the void around them would tremble violently. If this battle had taken place in the eternal immortal domain, the land within a radius of millions of miles would have been turned into ruins. Ning Shukong's weakness was between his eyebrows. However, his eyebrows seemed to be some kind of extremely powerful treasure that protected his only weakness. Unless I can break through the protection of that treasure, there is no way to kill him. Ling Xiao's eyes flashed. Thoughts spun in his mind as he constantly thought of countermeasures. At this moment, Ning Shukong came across the sky. His sharp claws tore through the sword light in the sky and attacked Ling Xiao. Ning Shukong's speed was so fast that it seemed as if the sky was filled with his afterimages. Moreover, the sharp claws could tear everything apart. Even though Ling Xiao's body was extremely strong, Ning Shukong still left bloody claw marks on his body. There seemed to be a strange black demonic light in the bloody marks that wanted to invade Ling Xiao's body. Buzz. At this moment, an ancient and mysterious buzz sounded. The area between Ling Xiao's eyebrows seemed to have been touched by the strange demonic light. Immediately, an illusory and faintly discernible figure of a divine mountain appeared. It continuously devoured the surrounding primal chaos qi, appearing ancient and mysterious. The divine mountain's Tao spirit? Ling Xiao was taken aback. He had never thought that the divine mountain's Tao spirit, which he had placed in his sea of consciousness for nurturing, would emerge on its own. After all, the divine mountain's Tao spirit was transformed from the true spirit of the emperor of Kunwu Mountain. Ling Xiao had obtained the eternity fruit and integrated it into the divine mountain's Tao spirit in the hope that the divine mountain's Tao spirit could quickly transform and revive the emperor of Kunwu Mountain as soon as possible. However, at this moment, the divine mountain's Tao spirit's abnormal behavior made him extremely nervous and worried. If anything happened to the divine mountain's Tao spirit, the emperor of Kunwu Mountain would be completely annihilated. This was naturally something he did not want to see. However, he did not expect that after the divine mountain's Tao spirit appeared, the surrounding void trembled violently. An ancient and mysterious origin of chaos was constantly integrated into the divine mountain's Tao spirit, causing the immortal Tao spirit to emit an ancient and mysterious aura. It was as if the vast eternal heavenly way origin had been mobilized at this moment. An incomparably powerful pressure pressed down on Ning Shukong. You are, impossible. How are you still alive? How can you still exist in this world? After seeing the divine mountain's Tao spirit in front of him, Ning Shukong's body trembled violently as if he had seen a ghost. His eyes were filled with horror and fear, and he could not help but shout out loud. Even Ling Xiao could feel the intense fear in his voice. Chapter 3485. Ling Xiao's body trembled, and a glimmer of light appeared in his eyes. He hadn't expected Shinshan's Tao spirit to be recognized by the bizarre forefather. After all, the immortal Tao spirit was the true spirit of the Kunwu Mountain Emperor. Apart from Ling Xiao, no one else could know the true identity of Shinshan's Tao spirit. But judging from the bizarre forefather's reaction, he seemed to recognize the Kunwu Mountain Emperor. Does the Kunwu Mountain Emperor have another identity in the eternal immortal domains? Ling Xiao shuddered, a trace of confusion in his eyes. Rumble. The surrounding space trembled violently. The spirit of the divine mountain radiated with boundless chaotic light. The ancient and mysterious might of the heavens pressed down, containing a mysterious power that could seal and kill everything. Ning Shukong's strength was unparalleled, but under the suppression of the Shinshan Tao spirit, he showed an extremely fearful look. In an instant he broke through the void and turned around to escape. A bolt of chaotic lightning surged from Shinshan's Tao spirit, containing the power to destroy everything. It struck Ning Shukong. No, you can't still be alive. You're dead. You died countless epochs ago. How can you still be alive? Ning Shukong's voice was filled with terror, anger, and despair, echoing through the chaotic void. However, Shinshan's Tao spirit remained silent, as if no one had answered the bizarre forefather. The bolt of chaotic lightning split open Ning Shukong's body in an instant, and then it suddenly struck one of the strange black primordial spirits. Ah! A miserable shriek rang out as the bizarre primordial spirit suddenly became illusory, as if it were about to be completely erased by the chaotic lightning. A black scale emitted a mysterious glow as it enveloped the old master of the bizarre tribe. It was about to teleport him into the distance. It's too late to leave. Ling Xiao sneered. His eyes were filled with incomparable coldness. He'd been guarding against the bizarre forefather's escape, so the branches of the world tree were like an inescapable net that sealed off the surrounding chaotic void. Just as the bizarre forefather's primordial spirit was about to break out of the void, sparkling and translucent branches appeared and whipped the forefather's primordial spirit. The bizarre forefather let out another miserable shriek, his eyes becoming incomparably illusory. Then, the branches of the world tree streaked across the sky, weaving into a large emerald net that trapped the bizarre forefather. In the end, with a flash of light, it flew back into Ling Xiao's sea of consciousness. It was firmly suppressed on the Tree of World, unable to escape. Shinshan's Tao spirit buzzed and trembled, emitting strange and ancient waves of energy. It flew back into Ling Xiao's sea of consciousness, where it fell silent. Ling Xiao had many doubts in his heart. For example, the true identity of the Emperor of Kunwu Mountain. The true identity of the bizarre forefather. However, he would have to wait until he had dealt with the bizarre old ancestor before he could get an answer from it. Ning Shukong had completely turned into a cold corpse. His primordial spirit had been devoured by the bizarre forefather, and his physical body had been split into pieces. He had died a miserable death. He'd thought that he'd obtained the inheritance of the chaotic ancient immortal emperor, but he'd never thought that his body would be taken over by the bizarre forefather. Rumble. The bizarre forefather was suppressed by Ling Xiao in the world tree. The ancient and mysterious chaotic palace in front of him suddenly bloomed with dazzling light. An ancient stone tablet shrouded in mist slowly rose up. It gave off a vast and ancient aura as if it had come from countless epochs ago. Ling Xiao, Di Hongluan, and the others all trembled as their eyes filled with shock. golden chaotic runes appeared on the ancient stone tablet, as if they were nurturing the truth of heaven and earth, explaining the meaning of the laws. They were mysterious and unfathomable. The 4 ancient words at the top bloomed with dazzling light, as dazzling as the sun. Chaotic Immortal Sutra. The 4 ancient words were reflected directly in Ling Xiao, Di Hongluan, Li Wuji, and Li Wushuang's eyes. They couldn't help but tremble. It's the Chaotic Immortal Sutra. I didn't expect that the Chaotic Immortal Sutra would only appear after the bizarre forefather was suppressed. Di Hongluan's body trembled, and her eyes were filled with disbelief. Ning Shukong's joy has turned to sorrow. In the end, it's all for nothing. He's done for us. Li Wuji sighed softly, feeling a little sad about the loss of a rabbit. It's too easy for such an ungrateful scum to die. In my opinion, we should suppress his primordial spirit in the 9 underworlds and roast it for 10,000 years so that he can never be reincarnated. Li Wushuang said with a murderous aura. He hated Ning Shukong to the core. Rumble. At that moment, billions of chaotic thunderbolts flashed and continuously struck the ancient stone tablet. Streaks of mysterious golden chaos runes streaked across the tablet like a golden torrent. They swept across the sky and merged into Ling Xiao's sea of consciousness between his eyebrows. Ling Xiao burst forth with dazzling immortal light, and his aura grew increasingly ethereal and mysterious. Boundless golden light and chaotic mist intertwined around him, completely enveloping him. Ling Xiao seemed to be immersed in endless Tao, and the power of laws intertwined around him. The presence of the eternal heavenly Tao was incomparably dense, and he seemed to have sunk into a state of Tao enlightenment. He sat down cross-legged and accepted the inheritance of the Chaotic Immortal Sutra. Di Hongluan, Li Wuji, and Li Wushuang all looked at him enviously. However, they also understood that a great figure like the primordial chaos immortal emperor had his own standards and rules for selecting a successor. Ling Xiao had clearly been acknowledged by the primordial chaos immortal emperor. That was why he was able to inherit the Chaotic Immortal Sutra. They didn't have extravagant hopes of obtaining the Chaotic Immortal Sutra. If news of such an earth-shattering inheritance reached the eternal immortal realms, it would cause a great uproar. Di Hongluan was the little princess of the immortal court of radiance, and the court was strong enough that it wouldn't be a problem. However, if Li Wuji and Li Wushuang obtained the Chaotic Immortal Sutra, it would bring endless danger to the fortune court. Di Hongluan, Li Wuji, and Li Wushuang stood guard over Ling Xiao as they searched through the Chaos Palace. Although the most precious Chaotic Immortal Sutra had fallen into Ling Xiao's hands, they'd assumed that a great figure like the primordial chaos immortal emperor would have left behind many other treasures. However, after searching through the entire Chaos Palace, they discovered that apart from the ancient stone tablet, nothing else was left behind. This made them extremely disappointed. Ling Xiao sat cross-legged in the void, his nascent spirit reflecting on his body. Chaotic light rose around him as he sank into a mysterious state of Tao enlightenment. It was as if he'd returned to the time before heaven and earth had been created. There was no life in the chaos, nor was there any world, space, or time. There was only the eternal and mysterious laws of the Great Tao. These were the true laws of the Great Tao. The laws that Ling Xiao had comprehended in the Urwilds were at best a projection of the supreme Great Tao in the chaos. The true supreme Great Tao was the origin of the chaos, and the foundation of the endless worlds that had been created in the chaos. Ling Xiao saw countless chaos fiend gods in the chaos. They were born from the will of the Great Tao and possessed unparalleled strength. Each one of them was at least as strong as an immortal emperor. Their strength was so great that a single battle could last for hundreds of millions of years. Ling Xiao felt as if he'd traveled back in time and arrived at the beginning of time, where he saw chaos fiend gods fighting endlessly. Among the chaotic divine demons, the most powerful ones were the chaotic divine demons who were born from the chaotic Great Tao. They were extremely powerful. The Great Tao of Chaos contained within the Chaotic Immortal Sutra had been comprehended by the primordial Chaos Immortal Emperor after he'd accidentally obtained the blood essence and soul fragment of a Chaos Fiend God. From the sutra, Ling Xiao could see the primordial chaos immortal emperor's ambition. The goal of an immortal emperor was to attain the eternal heavenly Tao. In order to surpass the immortal emperor realm, one had to surpass the eternal heavenly Tao and attain the supreme great Tao. Ling Xiao didn't know if the primordial chaos immortal emperor had succeeded, but it was highly likely that he had failed. Otherwise, the primordial chaos immortal emperor's corpse wouldn't have lain here for so many epochs. However, the Chaos Celestial Sutra was extremely precious and important to Ling Xiao. Perhaps he would be able to walk on a path that transcended the eternal heavens Tao and lead him straight to the supreme realm of the Grand Tao, a realm of mysteries. Perhaps that was the highest realm that countless living beings and experts had sought for over countless epochs in the eternal immortal domains. Ling Xiao had watched the Chaos Fiend gods fight, and the countless worlds in the Chaos Sea had been created by them. However, the eternal immortal domains had a mysterious origin, as if they were born from the will of the great Tao. Even if Ling Xiao dreamt back to the beginning of creation, he still wouldn't be able to discover who had created the eternal immortal domains. His nascent spirit had become more resilient and imperishable as he traveled the river of time. It pulsed with an aura of eternity that made him shine with a mysterious light. After an indeterminate period of cultivation, the strange phenomena around Ling Xiao slowly receded, and the primordial chaos immortal sutra was fully engraved on his nascent spirit. The sutra contained many peerless imperial arts, including forbidden arts, all of which were immensely powerful. But to Ling Xiao, the most important thing was the laws of chaos contained within, as well as the sliver of hope that he could surpass the eternal heavenly Tao. That was what he valued the most. Ling Xiao suddenly heard the bizarre patriarch's pleas for mercy from the world tree branch. His heart stirred slightly, and the branches of the tree of world were pulled out one after another, loosening the shackles slightly, allowing the figure of the great ancestor of strange creatures to appear. "Spare me!" The bizarre patriarch begged as soon as he saw Ling Xiao. His eyes were filled with frustration and helplessness. Chapter 3486. The strange ancestor looked extremely miserable. He was surrounded by black light and demonic qi. His primordial spirit, which had already become extremely illusory, was pierced by the world tree's branch. It was as if all his strength had been devoured and absorbed. The world tree's branch brought him endless pain. It was as if he had sunk into hell and would never be reincarnated. Therefore, although he had only been suppressed by the world tree for a few days, the strange ancestor had almost gone mad from the torture. When he saw Ling Xiao, he immediately knelt on the ground and begged for mercy. His eyes were filled with terror. After living for countless eras, the last thing he wanted was to die in such a humiliating manner. Buzz. Ling Xiao's heart skipped a beat. The world tree's branch immediately withdrew from the strange ancestor's body and stopped absorbing his primordial spirit's power. However, the world tree's branch still formed a prison, trapping the strange ancestor within. He could not escape. Ling Xiao looked at the strange ancestor indifferently and asked, "Who are you? What's your relationship with the primordial chaos ancient immortal emperor?" Hearing Ling Xiao's words, the strange ancestor did not dare to hide anything. He hurriedly said, "Sir, I'm the manifestation of the primordial chaos ancient immortal emperor's inner demon. When the primordial chaos ancient immortal emperor died, his primordial spirit was completely destroyed. Even half of his inner demon was wiped out, leaving only a strand of incomplete primordial chaos ancient immortal emperor's inner demon power. After countless years of nurturing, I was able to take human form." Ling Xiao's eyes glinted when he heard the strange ancestor's words. This was similar to what he had guessed. Since the strange ancestor was able to hide in this chaotic palace, he must be related to the primordial chaos ancient immortal emperor. He might even be the manifestation of the primordial chaos ancient immortal emperor's remnant soul. However, looking at the monstrous demonic qi around the strange ancestor, which contained the most negative emotions, Ling Xiao did not expect him to be the manifestation of the primordial chaos ancient immortal emperor's inner demon. How did the primordial chaos ancient immortal emperor die? Ling Xiao continued to ask. I'm not sure. The strange ancestor smiled bitterly and said, the primordial chaos ancient immortal emperor died before I took human form. However, according to the memory fragments that I obtained from the primal chaos ancient immortal emperor's inner demon, the primal chaos ancient immortal emperor was killed by a sword that pierced through his forehead and destroyed his soul. His primordial spirit was indeed destroyed by someone? Ling Zhao's heart trembled. He suddenly recalled that he had seen the primal chaos ancient celestial emperor's forehead pierced through by a sword. Just what kind of person could be so powerful that he could directly kill a primal chaos ancient immortal emperor? In Ling Zhao's opinion, the primal chaos immortal emperor was incredibly powerful. Even if he hadn't surpassed the immortal emperor realm, his cultivation base was at the peak of the immortal emperor realm. He was invincible even in the eternal immortal domains. To be able to destroy his primordial spirit with a single sword strike, could it be that this person had already surpassed the immortal emperor realm? What else do you know? Ling Zhao's eyes flashed as he looked at the strange ancestor. My lord, when I took human form, the primal chaos ancient immortal emperor had already died. I've been here for countless epochs, unable to escape because of the restrictions and formations left behind by the primal chaos ancient immortal emperor. That's why I wanted to possess that person and use that opportunity to leave. As for anything else, I really don't know. The strange ancestor hurriedly replied. Ling Xiao stared at the strange ancestor and sneered. It seems you're not being honest. If you don't know anything, then why did you look like that when you saw my divine mountain Dao spirit? What else do you know? Ling Xiao exuded an extremely cold killing intent, causing the world tree to tremble slightly. The chaotic light rose, and the branches were extremely sharp, as if they were going to pierce through the strange ancestor's body at any time. This caused the strange ancestor to tremble with fear. His face was extremely pale, and he hurriedly shouted, My lord, I really don't know anything. The reason why I had such a big reaction when I saw your divine mountain Dao spirit was because in the memories of the primal chaos ancient immortal emperor, there was an aura that was extremely similar to this Dao spirit. In other words, your divine mountain Dao spirit is very likely the reincarnation of the primal chaos ancient immortal emperor. What? Ling Zhao's body shook violently. Although he had already guessed this, he was still extremely shocked when he heard the strange ancestor's words. After all, the original body of the Kunwu Mountain Emperor was the Kunwu Divine Mountain. Legend had it that the Kunwu Divine Mountain was a divine mountain that had existed since the beginning of the untainted world. After countless years, it gave birth to spiritual wisdom and transformed into a human form, becoming the Kunwu Mountain Emperor. But now, the strange ancestor actually said that the Kunwu Mountain Emperor was the reincarnation of the primal chaos ancient immortal emperor. How could this not shock him? My lord, this is just my guess. It may not be accurate. However, the corpse of the primal chaos ancient immortal emperor is outside. Whether your divine mountain Dao spirit is the reincarnation of the primal chaos ancient immortal emperor or not, I believe that you will be able to find the answer when you see the face of the primal chaos ancient immortal emperor. The strange ancestor was extremely honest. In order to survive, he could be said to have told Ling Xiao everything he knew. However, it was just as he had said. Even though he had been in human form for a very long time, even countless epochs had passed, he had always remained here and had never left. Thus, he did not know many secrets about this place. Since you don't know anything, there's no need for me to keep you alive. You'd better be devoured and refined by my tree of world obediently and completely become its nourishment. Ling Xiao sneered, his eyes filled with incomparably cold killing intent. My lord, please spare my life. Don't kill me. I'm still useful. I'm still useful, my lord. The strange ancestor's face fell, and he hurriedly begged for mercy. What he feared the most was that Ling Xiao would kill him without any hesitation. If that happened, he would die before he could even see the sights of the eternal immortal domains. It would not be worth it at all. Then what are you still useful for? Ling Xiao said noncommittally. The strange ancestor felt a chill run down his spine. He could sense that the Tree of Worlds branches were incomparably sharp, and they radiated a piercing light that seemed capable of piercing through anything. They had already locked onto him, and if he said anything that displeased Ling Xiao, the Tree of World would pierce through him and devour him. Then he would disappear from this world forever. The strange ancestor's mind raced as he tried to recall the memory fragments of his inner demons. Suddenly, his eyes lit up and he said, "My lord, your Tree of World must be an origin world tree, right? It's a divine tree that only appears at the beginning of an eternal immortal domain's birth. Even in the eternal immortal domains, origin world trees like this are exceedingly rare. Perhaps you don't know this, but the primordial chaos immortal emperor once fused with an origin world tree. That origin world tree has lived for hundreds of millions of years, spanning countless epochs. It's most likely the most powerful origin world tree in the eternal immortal domains. If your world tree fuses with that origin world tree, you can instantly become an immortal emperor, or even break through to an even higher realm. I'm very familiar with the origin world tree's aura. If you take me away from here, I'll definitely help you find it." The strange ancestor looked at Ling Xiao with eager eyes. An origin world tree left behind by the primordial chaos immortal emperor? Ling Xiao's body trembled, and a glint appeared in his eyes. If what the strange ancestor said was true, then he really had to get his hands on the origin world tree. In that case, I'll spare your life for now. But don't you dare try anything funny, or don't blame me for not giving you a chance. Ling Xiao said coldly. Don't worry, my lord. I'll definitely help you find the origin world tree. The strange ancestor hurriedly promised. Buzz. Ling Xiao's glabella shone brightly, and the branches of the origin world tree formed a cage that trapped the strange ancestor. Then, the strange ancestor returned to Ling Xiao's sea of consciousness. Just like that, the mysterious old ancestor was completely imprisoned by Ling Xiao. Moreover, Ling Xiao could kill him with a single thought. Therefore, he believed that the mysterious old ancestor would not dare to play any tricks. However, this time, Ling Xiao managed to obtain a lot of useful information from the bizarre ancestor. For example, the Emperor of Kunwu Mountain might be the reincarnation of the primordial chaos immortal emperor. This was something he hadn't expected. The fact that the primordial chaos immortal emperor had also obtained an origin world tree piqued Ling Xiao's interest. Ling Xiao, you're finally out of seclusion. Di Hongwan looked at Ling Xiao, her eyes filled with joy. Thank you for protecting me. Ling Xiao smiled and said to Di Hongwan, Li Wuji and Li Wushuang. Ling Xiao, you can't let anyone know that you've obtained the inheritance of the primordial chaos immortal emperor. Otherwise, even the reclusive immortal emperors will hunt you down at all costs. Di Hongwan seemed to have thought of something and said seriously to Ling Xiao. Senior Ling Xiao, don't worry. I'll keep it a secret. Li Wuji said seriously. Senior Ling Xiao, if you're still worried, you can erase this part of my memory. Li Wushuang said in a serious tone. After what had happened in the heavenly ancient battlefield, Li Wushuang was no longer jealous or envious of Ling Xiao. Instead, he was full of admiration. He believed that Ling Xiao was destined to reach the top of the eternal immortal domain and become the unparalleled and invincible immortal emperor. Even though he was extraordinarily talented, he couldn't help but admit defeat in front of Ling Xiao. Don't worry, I won't tell anyone. However, it doesn't matter even if they know. Ling Xiao smiled faintly, his eyes full of sharpness. His cultivation had reached the third heaven of the quasi-immortal emperor realm. In addition, he had obtained the inheritance of the origin immortal emperor, the radiance immortal emperor, and the primordial chaos immortal emperor. His talent and strength had reached a terrifying level. Even if a ninth heaven quasi-immortal emperor realm expert stood in front of him, Ling Xiao was not afraid at all. In fact, he was confident that he could defeat him. Let's leave this place first, Ling Xiao said slowly. Then he, Di Hongwan, and the others jumped up and left the primordial chaos immortal emperor's head. He also wanted to see if the primordial chaos immortal emperor and the emperor of Kunwu Mountain were related. Chapter 3487. Rumble. Ling Xiao, Di Hongwan, and the others moved out of the chaotic ancient celestial emperor's body at lightning speed and arrived in the outside world. Before them, the chaotic ancient celestial emperor's body was still like a chaotic divine mountain, suppressing the endless chaotic void. It exuded an ancient and boundless aura. Di Hongwan, Li Wuji, and Li Wushuang could not bear the terrifying aura. Ling Xiao flew toward the chaotic ancient celestial emperor's face alone. The chaotic ancient celestial emperor's face was covered by endless chaotic divine light and lightning. Ling Xiao seemed to have passed through layers of chaotic lightning, astral wind, and mystic fire to arrive in front of the chaotic ancient celestial emperor. When he saw the true face of the primal chaos ancient immortal emperor, a trace of doubt appeared in his eyes. He realized that the chaotic ancient celestial emperor in front of him did not resemble the emperor of Kunwu Mountain at all. Moreover, even the origin aura was completely different. Could the strange ancestor have lied to him? Impossible. How is this possible? Why has the chaotic ancient celestial emperor's aura changed completely? It's completely different from before. The strange ancestor saw the chaotic ancient celestial emperor's face and felt the chaotic ancient celestial emperor's aura. He was shocked and said hurriedly, "What do you mean?" Ling Xiao asked with a frown. "My lord, the chaotic ancient celestial emperor's body is as tall as a chaotic divine mountain. However, his face is completely different from what I remember. His aura has also changed a lot. But that shouldn't be possible. With the chaotic ancient celestial emperor's cultivation, his aura and demeanor should not have changed even after countless eras after his death." The strange ancestor also had a puzzled look in his eyes. "I'm afraid something happened to the chaotic ancient celestial emperor that we can't predict." Ling Zhao's eyes flashed as he said slowly, "Buzz." At this moment, the spirit of the divine mountain slowly floated out from the world tree in Ling Zhao's sea of consciousness. It radiated with an ancient and mysterious presence, causing the surrounding space to tremble violently. At this moment, the ancient divine sword on the primal chaos ancient immortal emperor's forehead seemed to have lost all of its divinity and turned into scrap metal. It had even merged with the primal chaos ancient immortal emperor's body. However, at this moment, all the black rust slowly dissipated and shone with dazzling light. It formed a mysterious resonance with the spirit of the divine mountain. In an instant, golden light erupted, auspicious energy rose, purple energy curled up, and all kinds of mysterious phenomena appeared. The light of the divine mountain Tao spirit became more and more resplendent. It directly soared into the sky and merged with the ancient sword, or rather, with the primal chaos ancient immortal emperor's head. Rumble. The cries of dragons, tigers, phoenixes, and cranes could be heard in all directions, shaking the void. In an instant, a green dragon, a giant white tiger, a vermilion bird shrouded in flames, and a black tortoise with endless black oceans on its back appeared. The four immortal beasts shone with dazzling light. Although they were only shadows, their auras were extremely terrifying. They constantly bowed to the primal chaos ancient immortal emperor. Above the 9 heavens, in the chaos, there seemed to be a terrifying figure stepping on the endless chaos with the epic of the heavens above his head. Hundreds of millions of lightning bolts seemed to have opened up an endless world in an instant. This strange phenomenon was so grand that even Ling Xiao did not expect it. His eyes were filled with incomparable shock. However, he did not stop the spirit of the divine mountain. He could vaguely feel that the fusion of the divine mountain Tao spirit and the primal chaos ancient immortal emperor before him might be a good thing. Therefore, he could only watch as the spirit of the divine mountain Tao spirit, the ancient sword, and the primal chaos ancient immortal emperor's head fused together. It seems like the emperor of Kunwu Mountain, my master, is related to the primal chaos ancient immortal emperor. Ling Xiao thought to himself. He could feel that the primal chaos ancient immortal emperor had changed after the fusion of the divine mountain Tao spirit and the primal chaos ancient immortal emperor before him. Originally, the primal chaos ancient immortal emperor's corpse was like a chaotic divine mountain sitting cross-legged in the endless chaos void. Although its aura was majestic and terrifying, it was lifeless and lifeless. Now, the primal chaos ancient immortal emperor's corpse seemed to have a trace of life. Although it was very weak, the trace of life made the primal chaos ancient immortal emperor's corpse completely different. It seemed to be undergoing some kind of mysterious transformation. Ling Xiao frowned slightly. He naturally did not want to leave the spirit of the divine mountain Tao spirit here. However, the aura of the primal chaos ancient immortal emperor's corpse was too terrifying. It seemed to have merged with the chaos void and he could not take it away. Unless he had an eternal emperor weapon, it would be very difficult for him to take the primal chaos ancient immortal emperor's corpse away. As if he could see Ling Xiao's doubts and worries, the strange ancestor said, "Lord Ling Xiao, you don't have to worry. Although this place is in the heavenly ancient battlefield, it is extremely hidden. As long as you leave your primal spirit brand on the primal chaos emperor formation, this place will be completely sealed." Moreover, once you gain complete control over the formation, you'll be able to teleport here at any time, and no one will be able to discover you. That's a good idea. Ling Xiao nodded. The fusion of the divine mountain Tao spirit and the primal chaos ancient immortal emperor's corpse was not something that could be completed in a short period of time. Ling Xiao also noticed that there was an incomparably huge eternal emperor formation around the primal chaos ancient immortal emperor's corpse. It was indeed an ownerless object. Ling Xiao's glabella shone brightly and a primal spirit brand appeared. It then flew into the core of the formation. Ling Xiao slowly refined the formation according to the strange ancestor's instructions and completely sealed the chaos void. With this, Ling Xiao felt more at ease. At the same time, he was looking forward to seeing what would happen after the divine mountain Tao spirit and the primal chaos ancient immortal emperor's corpse completely fused. Ling Xiao, Di Hongluan, Li Wuji, and Li Wushuang left the primal chaos ancient immortal emperor's place of inheritance to leave the heavenly ancient battlefield. The dark creatures were rioting in the heavenly ancient battlefield, and even a peerless figure like the Dark Prince had appeared. However, the Dark Prince had died at Ling Xiao's hands, and the dark creatures would not let this matter rest. Something big was about to happen. We must leave this place as soon as possible and report what has happened. Di Hongluan's eyes flashed as she said with a serious expression. The dark creatures were the greatest enemy of the entire eternal immortal domain, and no one would let their guard down. The two sides were at loggerheads. Therefore, Di Hongluan was extremely vigilant when she saw the Dark Prince. That's right. What happens next is not something we can decide. Even if the Fortune Immortal Court, Truth Immortal Court, and Great Yen Immortal Court work together, they may not be able to solve the problem in the heavenly ancient battlefield. We must ally with the imperishable sects, the everlasting families, and the stronger immortal courts. Li Wuji nodded his head and said, although they had gained a lot in the heavenly Tao ancient battlefield and the immortal court of creation had become the biggest winner, they were still feeling very solemn. Soon, they arrived at the exit of the heavenly ancient battlefield. Dazzling light shone in front of them as the power of the void rose. Then, the four of them turned into dazzling rays of light that left the heavenly ancient battlefield and appeared in the sky above Quokang Mountain. Rumble! Divine light surged in the sky above Quokang Mountain. Lightning flashed, and two terrifying auras filled the air, exuding boundless fury. The moment Ling Xiao, Di Hongluan, Li Wuji, and Li Wushuang appeared, the two terrifying ripples of auras locked onto Ling Xiao. They contained surging killing intent. Ling Xiao's eyes flashed sharply as he saw the two figures in the void. They were the Thunder God and Mad Lion quasi-immortal emperors of the Truth Immortal Court. Their eyes were filled with monstrous fury and killing intent, and their auras were terrifying to the extreme. Ling Xiao didn't find it difficult to understand when he saw their expressions. After all, the Truth Immortal Court, which was the strongest in the heavenly Tao ancient battlefield, had been completely annihilated. Even the crown prince, Ning Shukong, had perished. This was an unimaginable blow to the truth immortal court. Even if the Thunder God and Mad Lion quasi-immortal emperors returned to the truth immortal court, they wouldn't be able to explain themselves. Therefore, they were filled with anger and killing intent. However, at this moment, their anger and murderous intent were all directed at Ling Xiao. Ling Xiao, where is the crown prince of the truth immortal court, Ning Shukong? The Thunder God quasi-immortal emperor stared at Ling Xiao coldly and asked. His voice was like a thunderclap that exploded in the sky. Ling Xiao, don't tell me you don't know. Yan Hongye has just told us that our crown prince has entered the place of the immortal emperor's inheritance, and you guys have also followed him. Where is he now? When can he leave the heavenly ancient battlefield? If you dare to hurt him, all of you will die today. The Mad Lion quasi-immortal emperor's eyes were extremely cold, and his killing intent was boiling. His aura was extremely terrifying. Yan Hongye looked at Ling Xiao apologetically and said, Fellow Taoist Ling Xiao, please forgive me. I can only tell you the truth. But don't worry, if they dare to make things difficult for you, the great Yan Immortal Court will definitely stand on your side. We won't let them act presumptuously again. How dare you? The Thunder God quasi-immortal emperor's eyes flashed coldly. He didn't expect the great Yan Immortal Court, which was the weakest of the great Yan Immortal Court, to be so unyielding. They wanted to fight against the Truth Immortal Court with Ling Xiao? Your Highness, you don't have to blame yourself. You're right. Ning Shukong did enter the place of the Immortal Emperor's inheritance, and we naturally chased after him. Unfortunately, Ling Xiao smiled faintly. Then he looked at the Thunder God quasi-immortal emperors and Mad Lion quasi-immortal emperors with a mocking gaze. Unfortunately what? The Thunder God quasi-immortal emperor and Mad Lion quasi-immortal emperor's expressions changed. They had a bad feeling in their hearts, and they hurriedly stared at Ling Xiao and scolded him. Chapter 3488. Seeing Ling Xiao's expression, quasi-immortal Emperor Lei Xin and quasi-immortal Emperor Kuang sure had a bad feeling in their hearts. At this moment, the entrance to the ancient battlefield above Quokang Mountain was slowly closing, but Ning Shukong still hadn't appeared. Could it be that something had really happened? Ling Xiao's next words immediately made their hearts sink to the bottom of the valley. It's a pity that Ning Shukong was doomed by his evil deeds. He tried in vain to obtain the immortal emperor's inheritance, but in the end he was possessed by a strange primordial spirit from the inheritance. Now, his soul is gone and he will never be reincarnated. Unfortunately, even if he has the projection imprint left behind by an incomparably powerful eternal emperor weapon like the Sword of Truth, it still can't change his fate of defeat. Ling Xiao looked indifferently at quasi-immortal Emperor Lei Xin and quasi-immortal Emperor Kuang Shi, and directly told them about Ning Shukong's fate and encounter. Except for the inheritance of the chaotic ancient immortal emperor, he didn't hide anything else. However, his words instantly enraged quasi-immortal Emperor Lei Xin and quasi-immortal Emperor Kuang Shi. Ling Xiao, you deserve to die. You must have used tricks to assassinate the Crown Prince. The Crown Prince is benevolent and magnanimous. How could he be the kind of person you say he is? You must be despicable and shameless, using some means to kill him. Quasi-immortal Emperor Lei Xin stared at Ling Xiao and said, That's right. Ling Xiao, you dared to kill the Crown Prince. That's the same as going against the true immortal celestial court. Today you must die. Quasi-immortal Emperor Kuang Shi was instantly enraged. Immortal light rose from his body, and he was incomparably violent. His aura erupted, and he was like a ferocious lion. The shadow of a ferocious lion that was 10,000 feet tall appeared behind him. A terrifying murderous intent swept across the sky, gushing out in a mighty manner, completely locking onto Ling Xiao. Cut the crap. I'm too lazy to say anything more to you. I saved Ning Shukong's life several times, but he was ungrateful and even wanted to steal my immortal emperor's inheritance. Being possessed by someone else was already too easy for him. To tell you the truth, in the end, It was I who killed him with a sword and set him free. If the two of you want to fight, then go ahead. What do I, Ling Xiao, have to fear? Ling Xiao sneered. His eyes were filled with sharpness, and an unparalleled fighting spirit surged from his body. His current strength had undergone an earth-shattering change compared to before he entered the heavenly ancient battlefield. Not only had his cultivation reached the third heaven of the half-immortal emperor realm, but his battle prowess had also reached the peak. Even though quasi-immortal Emperor Lei Shen and quasi-immortal Emperor Guangshi before him were both seventh heaven quasi-immortal emperors, Ling Xiao was not afraid at all. Instead, his eyes were filled with powerful battle intent. What? Lei Shen quasi-immortal emperor and Guangshi quasi-immortal emperor were also shocked. They didn't expect Ling Xiao to be so arrogant and admit that he killed Ning Su Kong. Was he not afraid of death? The quasi-immortal Emperor Thunder God and Kuang Yi didn't understand. Although they discovered that Ling Xiao's cultivation base has already broken through to the quasi-immortal Emperor realm, the difference between quasi-immortal emperors and quasi-immortal emperors was exceedingly great. Each heavenly layer was like a chasm. Did Ling Xiao really think that he could contend against two seventh heaven quasi-immortal emperors just because he had broken through to the quasi-immortal Emperor realm? He was simply courting death. What a fool. Quasi-immortal Emperor Lei Shen, quasi-immortal Emperor Guangshi quasi-immortal Emperor, where is Ling Xiao? He's a distinguished guest of the creation immortal court. If you dare to fight him, you'll have to go through me first. Quasi-immortal Emperor Qin Yun naturally couldn't sit idly by and watch. He immediately stepped forward. The aura around him was extremely terrifying, and his sixth heaven cultivation base was completely activated. That's right. Ling Xiao is a distinguished guest of the creation immortal court. How dare you behave so atrociously in the territory of the creation immortal court? Don't forget that you've lost the bet this time. Hurry up and hand over the 500 Dao domains. Quasi-immortal Emperor Nine Nether sneered and stood side by side with quasi-immortal Emperor Qin Yun. Terrifying killing intent surged around him as he blocked quasi-immortal Emperor Lei Shen and quasi-immortal Emperor Guangshi quasi-immortal Emperor Guangshi quasi-immortal Emperor Guangshi quasi-immortal Emperor Lei Shen. The reason he stood out was naturally because of the second prince, Li Wushuang. After the heavenly Dao ancient battlefield, Li Wushuang's hostility towards Ling Xiao had completely disappeared. On the contrary, he admired Ling Xiao very much. Therefore, when he briefly explained what happened in the heavenly Dao ancient battlefield, Nether quasi-immortal emperor immediately stood up. Quasi-immortal Emperor Lei Shen, quasi-immortal Emperor Guangshi, please calm down. Ling Xiao is also a distinguished guest of the Great Yen Immortal Court. He saved the eldest princess of the Great Yen Immortal Court, so we can't just sit and watch you kill him. The two quasi-immortal emperors of the Great Yen Immortal Court also stepped forward, their auras vast and unparalleled. Although their cultivation was the weakest among the 6 half-immortal emperors, only at the 5th heaven of the half-immortal emperor realm, they had no intention of backing down. The 4 quasi-immortal emperors stood side by side, blocking quasi-immortal Emperor Lei Shen and quasi-immortal Emperor Guangshi. The 6 quasi-immortal emperors' auras clashed, causing the surrounding void to tremble and distort violently. The entire Quokang Mountain was trembling violently. Ha! Fortune Immortal Court, Great Yen Immortal Court, do you really think that the 4 of you can stop us from killing Ling Xiao? I'll give you a chance to back off immediately, and we'll let bygones be bygones. Otherwise, the 4 of you will die today. Quasi-immortal Emperor Lei Shen laughed loudly. His eyes were like an abyss that contained a violent murderous aura. He was incomparably tough. Even if the 4 quasi-immortal emperors wanted to protect Ling Xiao, he still showed no signs of backing down. Instead, he even released endless killing intent around him. Fellow Taoists, I appreciate your kindness in this battle, but I alone am enough to deal with these 2 pieces of trash. Ling Xiao said with a faint smile. He directly stepped past the 4 quasi-immortal emperors and walked out. His body was surrounded by dazzling golden light, and the chaotic light rose, releasing an incomparably powerful battle intent. Fellow Taoist Ling Xiao, quasi-immortal Emperor Qin Yun was a little anxious and worried. He wanted to say something, but he was stopped by Crown Prince Li Wuji. Royal uncle, since Senior Ling Xiao wants to face the two of them alone, it means that he has absolute confidence. You don't have to do anything, Li Wuji said slowly. His eyes were also filled with strong confidence. Then he briefly explained Ling Xiao's battle results in the heavenly ancient battlefield through voice transmission. Quasi-immortal Emperor Qin Yun was completely shocked. He did not expect Ling Xiao to grow to such a level in such a short period of time. He even had to look up to Ling Xiao. In the end, he could only smile bitterly, nod, and leave. The two quasi-immortal emperors of the great Yan immortal court were also persuaded by Yan Hongye to not continue to attack. Boom! In the void, divine light crisscrossed, and killing intent intertwined. Ling Xiao, quasi-immortal Emperor Guangshi, and quasi-immortal Emperor Lei Shen stood facing each other. Three incomparably powerful auras seemed to be able to tear apart this part of the sky. The heavens and earth were filled with an oppressive and austere atmosphere. Ling Xiao, today, I will use your blood and life to pay tribute to His Highness Crown Prince's soul in heaven. Today, you will die without a doubt. Quasi-immortal Emperor Lei Shen suddenly roared. Killing intent surged around him as if millions of lightning bolts were exploding at the same time. Lightning flashed in his palm, and in an instant, a purple lightning battle spear appeared. It exuded an incomparably mysterious eternal heavenly Tao aura, and its power was extremely terrifying. That was his natal quasi-emperor weapon. Quasi-immortal Emperor Lei Shen and quasi-immortal Emperor Guangshi were determined to take Ling Xiao's life. Ning Shukong possessed the void immortal physique. Not only was he the crown prince of the Truth Immortal Court, but he was also the future hope of the Truth Immortal Court. But today, he died in the heavenly ancient battlefield. Once the Sovereign Lord was enraged, quasi-immortal Emperor Lei Shen and quasi-immortal Emperor Guangshi would also suffer unimaginable punishment. Therefore, at this moment, they were determined to kill Ling Xiao. Perhaps it could reduce part of their punishment. You talk too much nonsense. Ling Xiao sneered. The sky-devouring sword appeared in his palm. In an instant, sword chi rose, and the void in all directions shook at the same time. A terrifying sword intent erupted from Ling Xiao's body. He stared at quasi-immortal Emperor Lei Shen and quasi-immortal Emperor Guangshi in front of him, not hiding the killing intent in his eyes. Then, the sky-devouring sword swept across the sky. In an instant, millions of sword lights gushed out, like a heavenly river falling from the 9 heavens, and slashed towards quasi-immortal Emperor Lei Shen and quasi-immortal Emperor Guangshi. Kill! Quasi-immortal Emperor Lei Shen and quasi-immortal Emperor Guangshi were instantly enraged, and roared at the same time. Ling Xiao's arrogant and savage attitude had completely infuriated them. The lightning battle spear in quasi-immortal Emperor Lei Shen's hand was like a purple lightning dragon, traversing the void for millions of miles. It was extremely sharp, and it pierced through the void toward Ling Xiao's body. Quasi-immortal Emperor Wild Lion suddenly let out a roar that was as loud as a tsunami. The incomparably violent sound wave seemed to have materialized, and it contained a terrifying power that could destroy the primordial spirit. It covered the sky and enveloped Ling Xiao. This was the most powerful forbidden technique that he had cultivated. It was called the Heavenly Lion's Roar. Even quasi-immortal emperor experts in the same realm as him would have their primordial spirit shaken by this powerful divine ability, and they would not be able to react. Although quasi-immortal Emperor Lei Shen and quasi-immortal Emperor Guangshi wanted nothing more than to tear Ling Xiao into pieces, they did not have the slightest bit of carelessness. Moreover, the two cooperated very well. Quasi-immortal Emperor Guangshi used the sound wave attack divine ability to intimidate Ling Xiao's primordial spirit. Quasi-immortal Emperor Lei Shen's lightning battle spear instantly arrived in front of Ling Xiao, wanting to kill him completely. Your voice is too weak. Quasi-immortal Emperor Guangshi was shocked and angry that Ling Xiao did not seem to be affected by his heavenly lion's roar. Ling Xiao's primordial spirit was crystal clear. The world tree suppressed his primordial spirit and could resist all attacks. The so-called heavenly lion's roar could not even cause a ripple in Ling Zhao's primordial spirit. At this moment, the sword light of the sky-devouring sword in Ling Zhao's hand became more and more blazing. It contained an eternal and immortal aura, as if it could destroy the 9 heavens in an instant. Heaven and earth shook. The sky-devouring sword instantly clashed with the lightning battle spear. Blazing light spewed out, and an incomparably crisp sound rang out. The incomparably powerful lightning battle spear was actually cut into 2 by Ling Zhao's sky-devouring sword. Then Ling Zhao rushed into the sky with his sword. The incomparably sharp sword light instantly annihilated the void and ruthlessly slashed at quasi-immortal Emperor Lei Shen's chest. Blood filled the air. Quasi-immortal Emperor Lei Shen's stomach was almost directly cut open by Ling Zhao and completely cut into 2 halves. However, a deep wound appeared on his chest. His entire body spurted blood and he was directly sent flying. You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.